worked. Just for I was in Europe for some unrelated stuff, which is flight sim related, which I'm not supposed to talk about. But because I was in the neighbourhood, I thought I'd swing past and go and say good day to Maxi and Fabian and those guys. So I was just there for a couple of days, which was great. The weather was perfect. It was beautiful. I went flying with the guys, so we took a Diamond DA40 for a bit of a joy flight around the Alps, which was terrific. The weather was just amazing. So yeah, it was great.
Great.
And we are
So where are you
live.
based?
Oh.
You have been for some time.
Well, the microphones are hot now, so everyone can hear us. So just a really quick introduction to everyone who is joining us live. Welcome. Oh, excuse me. Welcome to the Sunday morning live stream, and we've got Jarrad Marshall with us. He's going to be giving us his tour of his latest masterpiece, Innsbruck, and we've got Kim, Engine Ignitions here. Engine, are you streaming on your channel as well?
If you want me to, I can.
Oh, it's up to you, either or. And then we've got Rebel joining us as well. So if you would like to join us in TeamSpeak and chat with Jarrad live, you are welcome to do so. All you have to do is just pull up TeamSpeak. The address is ts3.digitalthemepark.com. And if you would like to join us here in the server, as you can see, Jarrett's got the yellow Milviz MD530 over there in the corner, and I'm in the AW109. So if you'd like to grab a helicopter and join us, once you connect to TeamSpeak, someone will come in and help you get set up. So something different for a live stream if you would actually like to take part. So anyway, welcome aboard, everyone, and we'll be getting underway just shortly. For some reason on my laptop, I cannot see the stream, so I'm gonna have to pull up another window here.
I can see it fine, so it's running.
It's probably just my dumb laptop. All right, well, you guys can see the stream, so that's good enough for me. If for any reason the screen goes blank or something, just let me know. All right, so Jarrad, you're going to be giving us your tour,
That's
and
correct.
it is your show.
Thank you very much. I haven't actually worked out what route I want to take just yet. So if anyone has any requests, just give a shout out. Otherwise, I'll probably fly a bit absentmindedly around the scenery, having a look at a few bits and pieces.
Sounds good to me. Let me just get my Trek IR here set up. There it goes. All right, and then how this works is you can well, hang on, not yet. Don't take off yet. Let me get my eye point worked out here. There we go. Oops. Nope, I'm still behind my chair. There we go. And then Kim or Angie, can you do me a favor? Can you just check the sound, make sure all the audio levels are okay? Or if anyone's in the chat, if you could give us a heads up as well, just let us know you can hear us all clearly. I hate for us to get started and then like everyone hears me but doesn't hear anyone else. That would be terrible.
Audio levels are fine.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So Jarrad, it is your show. Let me do one more
Terrific.
quick thing here. Always forget to launch FSUI PC. Okay, cool. All right, I'm excited.
It's great. This is the first time I've done something like this, so please don't judge my helicopter flying ability too hard. I should also add the caveat for when I inevitably crash or do something stupid. I should point out that it is 2:15 in the morning here, so I'll blame it on that and nothing to do with the fact that my skills are lacking in any way, shape, or form. So, I'm going to handball the first decision to you, Dondre. Where would you like to see first? And we'll use that as a starting off point.
I'm actually really curious about the off-site helicopter landing spots.
Great. All right. Well, I tell you what. So there's so we've got just doing a quick run through. So obviously at the primary heliport here, which is the main Innsbruck rescue heliport. And also in the middle of the city, so just a couple of kilometres to our east, we've got the University Clinic rooftop hospital helipad, which I think most of us would be familiar with primarily from previous versions of flight simulators. It's usually something that's featured. We've got beyond that, we've got 3 other helipads which are closer to the edges of the photoreal coverage area. So to our west, we've got the Fire Training Rescue Base, which is a low detail heliport that I added. It's a fun location. I think we'll head out there first.
Okay.
So that's primarily just a ground fire training rescue base, but they do have a helipad just on site there, which I think it's Bell Jet Ranger 212s that are predominantly used out there. They're bright red. They're pretty good looking things. So if you have a bit of a Google image search, you can find some photos of that. The second non-city airport is a place called Hat Tucks, which is deep in one of the valleys right out on the southeastern corner. So it's quite close to the Italian border. So that's one of the rescue, one of the outports that is predominantly used during winter, which is a sort of a forward operating base for the rescue helicopters when they go to rescue silly tourists who manage to break their legs while they're skiing up the slopes. And then the third rescue pad is, I think we'll leave that one because it's less detailed and it is quite a far way out, which is just an unnamed landing area just in Buch. I think that's how you pronounce it, B-U-C-H, Buch in Tyrol.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've asked a lot of local people. They all know of it. They don't know what it's called. They just know that it's used again as just a forward placement site for rescue helicopters, predominantly during the winter seasons. So I think without saying too much more, let's head off and we'll head out straight down the west, down the valley, and we'll go to the fire rescue heli base first.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. There he goes. Oh, he's moving.
This is a new helicopter for me, a new add-on. We were just talking about this offline a couple of minutes ago. So this is the Milviz MD530, which I specifically got for this occasion. So I've only had probably about 20 minutes flying time on it so far earlier today. It's a terrific little aircraft. I'm very impressed with it.
Yeah, it's super solid. And as I was telling you just before we started the stream today, that that's one of the few helicopters that really keeps me on my toes. You really got to keep an eye on those RPMs.
Yeah, and it's good. And I was surprised for such a beautiful visual model. I'm running a quite old system. In fact, building a new computer is one of my first tasks now that Innsbruck has done. It's been on the slate for about 3 months, and I'm quite impressed at the performance of the model in prepared on my relatively old computer. So I'm just a quick caveat here. I'm just following the rail line out of town. So if we have a look on our right-hand side, you'll see some of the power line cables that are just running down the valley. And this will be different on your setup, Dondre, because they're not in sync. But if we keep an eye out, there should be one of the ICE, the ICE intercity trains that runs down this railway line. So that's specifically why I'm following it. I'm hoping that we might run into one along the way.
So I think you looks like some were that you place, and then some are part of OpenLC Europe, or
Sorry, the trains
no,
or
the power lines there.
all the power lines are all part of my scenery package. Sorry, Innsbruck.
User joined your channel.
Oh wow.
So everything that you see here basically is included in the Innsbruck package. So basically, I did that. I probably spent more time than I should have on it, but basically beyond the photoreal coverage area, I've created an extended buffer zone, which includes hand place land class and things like the mesh extends out to this extended area. Things like the vector components of roads and lakes, and even sort of the vector cuts for the poly forest region. So you've just got more accurate forest cuts that are higher resolution than the land class 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer resolution. And the reason I did that, and obviously, so all these components also all stretch over into the photoreal area as well, including things like these power lines. And the reason that I decided to do that was because the interesting challenge that I had was that I wanted to create a product that was compatible with a myriad of different Orbx products already on the market. So obviously you need a base package for compatibility. So that's the must-have. It's either Open Land Class Europe or global base. Both of them work exactly the same, and basically they just set the color palette. They also provide the land class textures that I've used custom land class. But then also I needed to make sure that it was fully compatible with Orbx Vector as well, and then the older version of the global mesh from Pilot. So in the past, this has caused us a few headaches in terms of compatibility, particularly with Vector, just because there's so many different elements that Vector introduces. That it brings up minor clashes within the photoreal coverage area. So what I decided to do was sort of mimicking what Holger does when he starts off a new Orbx region product. I started off by basically making a blank canvas. So I've added some massive exclude files over the whole coverage area, and then just created everything from scratch, from the ground up again. Specifically so that no matter what combination of Orbx products you have within the Innsbruck extended coverage area, your experience is going to be exactly the same, and you're going to see exactly the same components. So again, probably a lot more work than I needed to do, and a little bit pedantic at my end. but it was just something that I was trying to do, to create a sort of a single experience for everyone, so everyone's got a consistent experience, and also by excluding everything else and just including it from scratch at my end, it makes it a lot easier for me to have cross compatibility. And in the same light, so there was a few questions over the last 24 hours on our support forums, compatibility with the Austria Pro West HD photoreal product by Flugwerk Design.
Right.
And again, because I have these excludes included, and I've just basically cleared everything underneath it, it means that compatibility, when I did some testing again last night with that there wasn't any problems with it at all, and it works straight out the box without any problems.
Yeah, that flug work is pretty impressive stuff. I don't think they have seasonal textures, but with the amount of work that they have done with it is quite impressive. So it's nice to, because I think that's one of the biggest concerns people always has is, well, I don't have, I like to fly with photoreal, and my Orbx stuff isn't usually compatible. So I mean, this is something that you've really looked out for other people who use other products as well.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously, so we're just sorry, I'm just going to interject here and say I'm just approaching the heliport now, so I'm just going to do a quick flyby, and then we'll come back and come in for a landing. So it's sort of, you can see it's just sort of edged into the valley here. So that's cool. I'm not sure. Are you relatively close behind me?
Oh yeah, I've got you right, Mike. Are you gonna do a landing there, or?
Yeah. Actually, what do you feel? Do you want to have a landing, or do you want to keep going?
Yeah, we can do a quick landing and then take off.
We'll kick on. Yeah. So sorry, going back to what we're talking about with Austria Pro, is that obviously Orbx only officially endorses compatibility with other Orbx products. That's
Right.
what we designed. And obviously we only design our airports to be compatible with the Orbx product, whether it's global base or a region or a whatever. But I thought I would check with compatibility with that particular product, because it is quite unique in that it's an excellent quality photoreal product for the whole of Austria, that also includes complete autogen, which I think is one of the most impressive features of it, is that it's got this great autogen placement for the entire country. All right, see you down there, and I'll be just behind you.
Yeah, I'm just behind you here. Are you going in now, or I guess I should go in first? Oh, wait a minute,
I'm
there's
just
a
going in
helicopter
now.
down there. Who's that? Is that you, Kim? Who is that?
That's the power Oculus Rift. It makes your helicopter skills 500% better. I was 1.2 miles behind, and I'm down.
Oh my goodness, that was quick.
All right, so I'm just going to land on the grass, let someone else.
Okay, let me see. I kind of lost my eye point here. Let's see. I think I got it. Oh, that was kind of a rough landing. Just going to move to the exterior view here and just take a quick little look around. The photoreal that you've used here is amazing. Jarrad, I have to assume that, I mean, can we take a guess of what it costs to populate this entire coverage area in photoreal? Because it could not have been cheap. Oh my
Probably
God.
not something we should talk about.
That's all we need to know.
It's a question that you probably don't want to the answer for, but it's very lucky with the access that we had, and yeah, so the source imagery, not the imagery that we ended up using, but the source imagery was actually quite high resolution, which is quite nice, because it means that even for the lower resolution, well, the lower in inverted commas, the 1 meter resolution, which is the larger coverage area, unlike some sources that we have, where the source material is also at 1 meter resolution as well, because the source material is at a much higher resolution. It means that you just get a slightly better quality definition to the lower resolution imagery, because it's the same as if you have a very high megapixel photo on your camera and then you need to downsize it to put on Facebook or something like that. You're going to get a slightly better quality image than if you just took the picture at that lower resolution source.
Let me see. Who's landing right now?
That's me, Rebo.
Rebo, okay, hang on one second. I've got you in a C-172 hovering down. So let me do something about that real quick. Hang on. Let me see. How do I swap that? I'm trying to remember. It's under users, right? Is it, how do I switch? It's under aircraft, right? Kim?
Sorry?
It's under aircraft, right?
View aircraft and substitute.
Okay.
You can see the actual model people are flying and substitute it for something similar.
There we go.
I just have 4 Hueys now. That looks quite good.
It's like a Vietnam thing going on over
It
there
is.
for you.
I need to put on the credence.
Let's see here. Any helicopter will do if I can just find one. Reba, what helicopter are you flying physically, actually? I see EC-130 H&S design. What is that? I don't think I know about that add-on.
No, it's a Freeway Eurocopter 135
Ah,
with a lot of modders.
let me see. I'm just trying to find any helicopter in here, really. The way it lists them, it's like kind of hard to find things.
But I could also take another helicopter.
Oh no, you can keep that just for the stream so it doesn't look weird. I'm just trying to swap your helicopter with something else. Anything that's a helicopter. I just can't find a helicopter in the drop-down list anywhere here. That's the problem with having too many planes in your library. What about that? Will that work? Whoa, what happened there? Okay. Oh gosh, is it swapping everybody?
Shouldn't be. Oh, you probably selected the default substitution for planes you don't own, or
Oh crap. How do I undo that? Or maybe I should, probably I should leave and come back in, huh? Or,
file? No, actually I can't remember. I think you have to choose when you install it.
oh
I'm
crap.
not sure.
I think I just ruined it. All right, hang on. I don't know what I just did here. Let me try that again. Sorry, Jarrad.
No, you're all right.
Yeah, I swapped it and then all the helicopters just disappeared and then came back as something really odd. Can I undo that? Okay. There we go. Okay, now where did Rebo go? He disappeared. There he goes. Okay, there we go. That's fine now. I've got him in an AW109 as well.
Yeah, change it now.
Oh, you switched. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes it easier too. Actually, and you have the proper livery on yours as well. Okay, so is this so we have, is it 2 or 3 heliports outside of Innsbruck itself, Jarrad?
3. So this Hat Tucks and the unnamed airstrip, and then we've got the 2 heliports within Innsbruck itself.
Okay, and then also for those of you who are watching live, if you would like to join us on this flight, you're more than welcome to. All you have to do is just head into TeamSpeak, and the address is ts3.digitalthemepark.com. You can come in and chat with us live, and once you get here, we can get you the server information to come in and join us if you would like to take part, doing something a little bit different from the live streams, making it a little bit more interactive. And Jarrad is giving us his personal tour. So how often do you actually get a developer of the scenery giving you his own tour? Which is actually, this is a lot of fun. So if you'd like to join us, that's how you get in. And Jarrad, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Great. All right. So the request from you earlier on, for those that have just tuned in, was that we're going to check out a couple of the non-airport heliports. So I think what we might do next is head out to Hat Tucks, which is out on the other side of the coverage area, and we might take a bit of a trip up through some of the mountain areas. We're going to take a slight detour while we're out here.
Okay.
And yes, so we're going to depart out to the northwest. So we'll just head out there. We're going to head out to, now I'm not going to even try and pronounce it. Perhaps some German native speakers can try instead. We're going to head out to what is the tallest mountain in Germany, which is actually quite close from here and just on the edge of the photoreal coverage area.
Okay. Let me see. Where did you go? You took off. What direction? Oh, there you are. I got you. Okay. We're getting some microphone feedback here from somebody.
That's Kim, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. Now it's gone.
Now it's gone.
Okay.
Oh, it's back. Yeah, I remember, I'm trying to remember how I discovered Innsbruck. I think probably 15 years ago, just looking for videos on YouTube for interesting airports. And I think came across Innsbruck Airport on a YouTube video, and I wasn't really that familiar with the area. But once I saw the YouTube videos, it was one of those airports that I just had to have. And the only one that was available back then, which would have been probably back in 2005, I think, was Aerosoft had, and I think it might have been part of the German airports team. They had like a very light version of Innsbruck included in one of their like huge German airports packs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fairly decent. And then of course we got the payware version, which was really good for its day.
Yeah.
Obviously a bit of controversy surrounding all of the different Innsbrucks, but I mean I guess I would say that it's really no coincidence. I mean, it's one of those things where we've been seeing this quite a bit lately, where you have these airports that are extremely popular airports, not only in real life, but in the flight simulators really immerse. And a number of years will go by and no one will do it. And I think at the same time, a lot of people think, wow, this airport really needs to be done. And so you get a number of people that just set out to do it, and then they're all doing it at the same time, sort of thing. So I guess it's no coincidence that Innsbruck would be one of those locations. But without a doubt, I mean, you have really gone, I think, to the max in terms of detail. And I always ask you this question: are we at the biggest you've ever done yet, or are we still?
So this is definitely the largest project I've done in terms of coverage area and just sort of scope of product. So as a benchmark, the largest coverage areas for any Orbx airport product prior to this would have been probably about 1,800 square kilometers. So airports like Eagle County and Jackson Hole, Palm Springs, all had roughly the same size coverage area, which is about 1,500 to 1,800 square kilometers. And then so this one has been bumped up to 2,500 kilometers coverage area. Also, Mateo with his San Diego, which was released a few days ago as well. He's also gone for the monster coverage area as well, which is terrific. I think he's done a really good job with that. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's never a choice that I start off a project and go, right, I'm just going to make the biggest one I've done yet. That's never a reason that I decide to do it. My primary sort of reason for defining a sort of a coverage area at the start of the project factors in a few different components. So obviously the quality and the availability and the pricing of aerial imagery is sort of the strongest deciding factor. But then, depending on what I've got to work with, I sort of set out the perimeter of the photoreal based on some interesting landmarks or what a natural border would be for the coverage area. So, for instance, in the case of Innsbruck, this again, I won't try to pronounce it, but the tallest mountain in Germany, which I'm just coming is directly ahead of me right now. This is the the northwest corner of the scenery coverage. So that seemed like a nice reference point to use to stretch out the photoreal. And then along the eastern edge, there's just some natural geographical boundary points that worked out quite well. So the contours of the valleys along that way. And so basically what I was trying to encompass with this was, when you're flying, because a lot of people will be flying their, A320s and 737s and Q400s into Innsbruck, I wanted to create a really immersive experience for sort of the last 10 to 15 minutes and the first 10 to 15 minutes of the flight. So you've got that sort of scene transition into default or whatever combination of land class and vector and mesh products you have outside, and then just gradually transitioning and keep increasing the detail level so that by the time that you hit the airport, and particularly the airside component of the airport, you've gone from very broad strokes detail outside the coverage area to this hyper detailed sort of rendition of the airport. And just making a very gradual transition across that sort of 40 to 80 kilometers.
This is a tough thing for me to say, and I to this day, this is a tough one for me. It's like that situation where someone puts Pagani Huayra and a Ferrari Scuderia and a Lamborghini Gallardo in front of you and says, okay, you have to pick one, and then your head explodes, sort of thing. And I'm trying to decide if this is the most beautiful scenery you've ever made. And the reason why that's tough for me is because of all your sceneries, and I do love them all, I still regard Sedona as probably the most beautiful scenery that you've ever created. Mm-hmm. But just kind of flying through these mountains and passes, I'm like, I'm at like one of those crossroads where I'm really trying to figure out if this is really the most beautiful one you've ever done. I mean, definitely Sedona is a much smaller coverage area. This is a lot bigger, but I'm stuck at one of those crossroads and trying to figure out which is more beautiful. So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, my head will probably explode.
That, and I would probably make the point that doesn't really have a great deal to do with my scenery development per se, but just what kind of scenery you like for the real version life. So I agree. I think that Sedona is certainly one of my favorite places I've ever been to in real life. I don't think it was my best product per se, but I would agree. And that's a purely, I think, in my opinion, that's a subjective kind of thing as well. Some people might find Innsbruck very beautiful, and I certainly do. Living in a city living in a state where a couple of 100 meters is a significant mountain. Anything like this just blows me away. Whereas, you know, like I still have a few friends who really think that Cairns in Australia is one of the more scenic products that Orbx have. Again, and it's a different kind of scenery, you know, like with
Right.
the barrier reef and the sort of the Australian rainforest. So yeah, I think, you know, and that's the beauty of flight sim in general, is that, you know, you get to fly and visit the parts of the world that you may not be able to in real life, and you get to explore it. And part of the joy for me of developing is that I get to create scenery for these beautiful parts of the world as well.
God, this just looks freaking amazing. I did lose you for a minute there. I think you made a right turn and I lost you, so I'm
Yeah,
just catching up.
yeah, I'm
Um,
just I'm going to find you again.
you know, just looking at just like these small lakes over here. Oh, wow. I can't wait to see what this looks like in winter. Because I think that's going to be the big selling point for a lot of people. You know, just like as we mentioned, Flugwork, and before Flugwork, I think there was Austria Professional. I can't remember who. I can't remember if that was the same developer or a different developer, but
I think it might have been, but I'm
might
not
have
100%
been.
sure on that.
Yeah, I think it might have been the same one, but under a different name or something like that. Because I remember I had the old Austria Professional back in FS9 that I used.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the interesting thing. Oh, I'm going to lose my helicopter here. Ah, there it goes. I lost it. There we go. There's my crash. Did everybody get to see that? I got to crash. Um, what was I saying? Darn, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, winter textures, because a lot of these heavy photoreal sceneries don't have winter textures. So to be able, and of course, you know, flying into Innsbruck in the middle of winter is really going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for everyone coming in. The low visibility and everything is white, and so to finally be able to get that coupled with winter photoreal, I think is really the big selling point for a lot of people. So whereas
Hmm.
they will have that compatibility with their Flugwork, if
Hmm.
they're coming in the middle of January or February, you know, they'll be coming in with lush green landscape, and then they'll hit that bright white. But I think this is definitely going to be a big deal for a lot of people.
Hmm. So I think, if I'm correct, if you do 180, I'm just starting to head down that valley.
Yep, I'm right behind you now.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, the impossible hurdle that, you know, any kind of large scale photoreal product is going to have is, you know, it's the capacity of people's download bandwidth and hard disk space, and you know, and their willingness to spend huge amounts of money on bandwidth to provide these products, because the primary, in terms of airport products that use photoreal bases, and particularly airport products that are in locations where there is a need for the 5 different seasonal variations like there is in Innsbruck, is that the majority of the download size actually is in these photoreal ground textures. So, you know, for example, so for Innsbruck, there's probably, if you ignore all the extended photoreal area, there's probably about 800 megabytes worth of data for everything else except for just that ground texture.
Wow.
Um, um, and then the rest of the 3.5 gigs, once it's uncompressed, is just this area, with the full seasonal variations. So, you know, if you've got something of a much larger scale, it's virtually impossible, because you're going to quadruple the size of the download, you know, and that just makes it impossible for a lot of people like me who have decent but not magnificent download speeds.
Yeah, especially in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that a lot from you and Misha. You know, having high heavy bandwidth is something definitely to be desired, and at some point you've got to upload all of this work as well.
Yeah, uploading is the bane of our existence. I have mates who are video editors as their day jobs, and quite often it's just easier for them to courier their work on hard drives back over to, you know, Sydney or Melbourne, than it is for them to upload it, just because, you know, uploading a HD video source file is just an impossible task in a realistic time frame.
Well, I'm definitely going to say this. This is definitely one of the most beautiful sceneries I've ever seen, just in the whole of Flight Simulator in general. I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
it's you've done an amazing job. This is just insane. And that's kind of the whole thing with Innsbruck is the approach into the mountains. And you know, it's always been, you know, you kind of fly through default terrain and then you fly into the scenery just, you know, a few moments before flying into the airport itself. And, you know, like you said, you really extended it. So regardless of what runway you choose to fly in on, I mean, you have a really long path of high quality scenery bringing you all the way into the airport. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And you got to visit there yourself. Hello, who's that?
Ralph?
What's your name again? Sorry.
Ralph?
Live?
Ralph.
Oh, Ralph. Hello, Ralph. Welcome. Where are you?
In Germany.
Welcome from Germany. And I guess I should also note again, for those of you that are watching live, if you would like to hop in and join us in the scenery as Jarrad gives us a tour of his masterpiece, you're definitely welcome to do so.
I cannot buy the scenery because I have only paper.
Ah. Well, it is, I will say this, it is definitely worth examining other options to get it because it is amazing. I'm sure you're watching the stream and
Yeah,
it is.
I try sometimes on the Orbx forum and to ask if others can buy with their credit card on my account. But every time when I try to get an answer, that trade was closed.
Yeah, well, they did address those issues with PayPal, and you know, hopefully, maybe at some point in the future they'll be able to work that out. But for the time being, yeah, that's the reality of the situation. So, Jarrad, where are we heading to next?
We're going to head to Hat Tucks, which is the heliport just on the other side of the coverage area. So we're just going to overfly the city and then head a little bit further out. It's probably about 15 minutes worth of flying time, I would expect, from here. So again, this is just a heliport just tucked in one of the inner valleys just beyond Innsbruck that's used predominantly just for rescue flights.
And this being your largest airport or your largest scenery project ever, what would you say? Oh, I'm going. Oh, my gear is down. I didn't realize that. What was the most tasking aspect of the scenery that took the most time?
It was pretty equal across the board, to be honest. Normally, it's the terrain elements that do take the big chunk of the time. So, you know, there's a huge amount of time that goes into color editing the ground textures and correcting color balance and sort of blending them to the surrounding land class, and then, you know, cleaning up elements around the airport. So, you know, removing footprint vehicles and removing lines and markings and shadows and things like that. So that's usually a fairly time-consuming task for very large photoreal images for projects like this. And then obviously the autogen takes an enormous amount of time as well. So I have used some automated methods just as a base layer for the autogen here. So I do. There is some excellent data available that I'm able to use to sort of start the automation process. But then obviously that's not the results that come out from that do save a huge amount of time, but they're not to the fidelity that I would like for my products, and you know, it's not really the fidelity that we expect from Orbx products in general. So after I've got that automated base layer of very basic vegetation cuts and buildings, it was a matter of coming back over and just hand editing everything and adding in smaller incidental trees and vegetation and details and cleaning up sort of overlaps and things like that. So that's a pretty momentous task in itself. And then, you know, the airport itself took 3 months to do from scratch. So basically the split. So I've had a few sort of breaks with a few different bits and pieces going on outside of Flight Sim during this development, but the time from the time that I started the project has been 10 months, and I've worked on it for 7.5 months. So 3 months of that would have been in the airport. Probably about 1.5 months was for all the non-airport landmarks and features, and you know, like heliports and the city trails and things like that. And then the remaining time was for the terrain, the autogen, and then, you know, all the vector and the land class and the custom seasons and all those kinds of components as well.
And another thing I should note, for those of you watching the stream, you'll notice I've got the chase rabbit there and the runway lights are activated. And in the control panel, it allows you to have that lighting on 24 hours a day in case you fly into the area in low visibility. Do you want to talk a little bit about the features? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that rabbit thing is quite interesting, and I asked a few different guys if there was a technical name for it, because I couldn't find any definitive term for it, and all the guys that fly in there that I asked just knew it as the rabbit, so that's what I'll call it. And so the lighting options in real life in Innsbruck are quite interesting, actually. So the runway edge lights actually have different intensity level settings, which the air traffic control or the pilot can choose to set. So obviously the pilot just asks control tower to set them at intensity levels depending on, you know, obviously the weather and the time of day. And then the rabbit is not often used. It's predominantly just in very bad weather that it's used in during low visibility. So that's, again, an option that pilots can choose to ask the tower for. And then, you know, apparently there's quite a broad spectrum of different options, lighting options available. But within the confines of FSX and also within the confines of my sanity, in terms of like coding all these variables, I just kept it nice and simple and just had the two different options. So you can have all the general runway lighting available as just night only or available during day and night. And then the other option is the rabbit, which you can have off altogether or just during the evening or day and night for bad weather. So again, as you were saying, those are options in the control panel that you can just choose based on your preference or the type of flying that you'll be doing. So my preference is purely from a visual point of view, no basis in reality whatsoever. I prefer to have the rabbit on during the evening all the time. And, you know, so even if it's beautiful VFR conditions, I'll just have that rabbit just because it's pretty cool. It's basically for people that have been in Innsbruck, all the major buildings in the city, because this rabbit line runs through the very center of the city, basically, you know, every however many 400 meters, I suppose, every placement point on the roofs of whatever building that happens to correspond with, they put one of these lighting towers in, and then that strobe just runs through the very center of the city.
Wow, I'm just panning around here and I'm just looking at all the autogen, all the trees that had to be placed, the coloration. So I imagine you must be proud, because I remember when we first talked and when you first mentioned that you were considering doing Innsbruck, which now was, God, that was what, almost 2 years ago, I think. 18 months ago, yeah. So your next step, do you think you'll go bigger? Do you think you'll go smaller? What are you thinking?
I have to go smaller. I can't, you know, you just burn out doing projects like this. It's pretty intense, particularly towards the end of the project. So, you know, I push it pretty hard to try and, you know, get things done in a reasonable time frame, and also making sure that I'm making a quality product. So it's it's not a definite locked-in sort of mode of operation that I have, but what I've noticed that I've done with the last couple of projects that I've done, probably since Palm Springs, is I've kind of done a really big project followed by a project that's still big but is a little bit smaller. So, straight after Palm Springs, I did Sedona, which still had a very large coverage area but was a smaller airport. Then I followed that with Eagle County, which was an airport more along the sidelines of Innsbruck and Palm Springs and Cairns. And then I followed that with Telluride, which again had a very large coverage area but is obviously a less complicated airport itself. So I do know what I'm doing next. I can't yet say what that is. And it's definitely a much bigger airport than, your Sedonas or your Tellurides. But it's not going to be quite on the same scale as Innsbruck.
And do you think you'll be staying in Europe, or do you think you'll be heading to another continent? Can I ask that, or am I asking too much?
Yeah, sure. I will be staying in Europe. I wanted to sort of create a couple of projects in Europe. It's nice to sort of I try to sort of make sister projects for each other. So, again, thinking back to projects like Monterey and Reading were kind of coupled projects, and then to a general extent, Palm Springs was also coupled in as a sort of a triplet, and then Sedona and Palm Springs were like a little duo of two airports that were relatively close together. And then Eagle County and Telluride were they were planned to be two airports close to each other,
right,
that were designed to be destinations, so you can do short hops between each other. So I'm not saying that the airport I'm doing is necessarily close to Innsbruck. I don't actually know how far it is. I wouldn't call it close, but it is a bit of a partner project. So, if you're flying your A320 or your Q400 or, your business jet or something like that, you can have a relatively short hop session between the two, which I think would be fair to say for almost any airport pairing in Europe is generally relatively short hop compared to, say the longer tracks that you guys would be used to in the US, or certainly the tracks that we're used to flying in Australia. It's nice to make easy short pairs in Europe between interesting destinations quite close together.
Absolutely. And not only that, and then you look at a little bit of what a few other developers have been doing in the area. You've got Salzburg from Digital Design, which would make a perfect pairing for Innsbruck here as well, because Evgeny has done just a fantastic job with that airport. I mean, that's an all-around fantastic developer in general. But you've got that, and then we've got Flight Simulation Development Group, who did, I think it's Graz, right? Or is it Linz? I think it's Graz that they did on the other side too. So, and then you've got Fly Tampa, who did Vienna years ago and updated it. So that's another airport that holds up really well. So Austria is really getting a lot of attention. But Innsbruck is, I think, without a doubt, if anyone were to say, okay, what would you say is the heart of Innsbruck? I think most people would probably, or the heart of Austria, I think many people would say Innsbruck, just because of how immersed it is. So really, you've tackled what I think is the most important airport in the entire country. So now it's just a matter of, what else is out there? But I guess we'll see. Do you think, because you are coming to Flight Sim Con this year, right? So a lot of us will get to.
Correct.
And it'll be
about that.
It'll be my second time meeting you as well. In fact, we did an interview together when you were here, and for the last 4 days, I was looking for the files for the video interview that we did, and I only found it at 3 o'clock this morning. And so I sat down at 3 o'clock this morning to kind of get all of the editing complete. And then at some point, I'm like, I've got to get up in a few hours. There's just no way this is going to work. So I wound up putting that back on the shelf for the time being. But when you...
I did enjoy that little outtake that you popped up on Facebook earlier.
Yeah, I thought at the very least I'd do that.
Yeah, a few of my mates laughed pretty hard at that.
Did you? I was going to ask, did you get feedback from that?
I did. I was out with a on our little Facebook feed. It's pretty funny.
Oh man, that was hilarious. So when you come to FlightSimCon, do you think you'll be, because I know John is going to be on a rampage. He was on a freaking rampage last year, just with everything that Orbx was announcing in general. Am I following you? Wait a minute. I'm following a Beechcraft. Where are you at? You're behind me now, I think. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case again this year. So do you think by then you will be showing off something new, or will that still be a bit
No.
soon for you?
Yes. Yeah, I've got a few other side projects, non-Flight Sim X related, that I need to get on top of before I really get cranking on my next project. So I think given that FSCon is not too far away, what is it? It's about 11,
Like
12
roughly
weeks
2
away.
months almost, something like that.
Yeah, so it'll be pushing, and also, yeah, the order that I like to develop airports in, the 2 months worth of work, it won't look like 2 months worth of work. It'll look like, a dog's breakfast, to be honest. It's kind of, I was talking with Lexi about this the other night, how I was saying it's kind of frustrating in the way that I like to approach designing airports, is that everything looks like a mess until about a week before it's done. And then suddenly it just magically all comes together, and it's always a great relief when that happens, because it's just a bit daunting to look at sort of source files and everything's mismatched and in pieces and stuff for months on end. But then yes, it's always very satisfying when you get that last little piece of it all coming together. So
Right.
yes, so in June I don't think I'd have anything of note that I would be happy to show.
But we'll have you, and that's good. Your fans will be able to interact with you in person.
Yeah, I don't know how many times, but yes, yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great to meet a lot of people. It'd be lovely. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's definitely going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so I managed to make my way all the way over to the other side of the mountain, just looking at the threshold between Open LC Europe and the photoreal area. And it's amazing how you blend it in almost seamlessly. It's a big difference in looking at the photoreal versus Open LC, but just looking at how you blend it in there. It's like back in the day, I remember, like for example, the Aerosoft Budapest from, I don't know, that was probably from 10 years ago, where you knew you were approaching the
remember the one.
scenery. Yeah, you knew you were approaching the scenery because there was a big box just like out on the horizon, because they made the scenery an exact square, which was kind of funny. But yeah, we don't see too much of that anymore. Now it's, you kind of gradually transition into it. And, if you're in an A320 or something like that, you may not even notice the change because you're moving so fast. You'll look up and like, oh my gosh, I'm in the scenery area now.
Yeah, so in fact, the route that I'm taking right now is I'm actually just skirting the edge of the photoreal coverage area just along the mountains here. And yeah, that is, to be honest, that's where a lot of the time in the photoreal editing that I was talking about disappears to, is just sort of blending the edge lines as best as you can. Because land class tiles, because they've got that 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer sort of resolution, you've got sort of essentially solid blocks of a relatively similar color palette, but then you have the massive endless variation of a photoreal texture. So trying to align them, still making the photoreal texture authentic and not just clearly, like you put a crappy Instagram filter or something like that on it. That's where a lot of the time disappears in developing the photo textures.
All right. Actually, I'm going to step away for 2 seconds. I've got to close this window that's behind me because it is throwing my track IR into a fritz. Let me close this window. Hang on 1 second. I ripped my lady's pantyhose. Uh, so what that is, if a lot of you guys, if you have track IR and you have a window behind you and you know how the light or any kind of a light source behind you can really throw off track IR. Using ladies' pantyhose, just regular ladies' pantyhose, if you put that over the camera, it will block the light. But as when I was cleaning it, I ripped it, so I don't have anything covering it anymore. So some of you guys watching probably saw the camera going crazy for a little while there, and that was the reason. So I think I can unlock that again and look around. There we go. That's much better. So I had to close the drapes that are behind me.
All right,
Okay.
so I'm approaching. I see you're a little way behind me, but I'm approaching the heliport now, Hat Tucks.
Yeah, I'm about 5 miles behind you, but I should catch up fairly quickly. And you're handling that 530 pretty well. It's
Yeah,
what
pretty
going on.
close. I haven't killed the engine yet, which is good.
That's very good. And not only that, but this is, I mean, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning is probably when you're working anyway, I imagine.
I work all the hours. They all blend into one mess at this time of the project.
Are you gonna take a little bit of a break, or are you just basically keeping busy?
No, I'll have to. I've got a bunch of other work that I need to catch up on this week, so I have a couple of days just to get back onto a regular time schedule, and then yeah, I've got a few other bits and pieces to get cracking on before I get back into flight sim developing per se.
Yeah, and actually, I should note too, because a lot of people were getting a bit concerned for a while there. I saw a few comments in some places. What the heck is going on with Innsbruck? And there hasn't been any previews in a while. And the reason being is because you actually, as we started the stream, we were talking about it, that you actually went to Innsbruck yourself. What was that, about a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, so yes, I was over in Europe for something unrelated that had been planned for quite a while before before I had sort of a time frame in mind for Innsbruck release. So it was a little bit of bad timing, as I was very close to having Innsbruck finished. So those airport previews that I put up about 3.5 weeks ago were getting quite close, and in fact very close. But then yes, this trip, and I was in the neighborhood on just on an unrelated thing, and I thought, it's so far away from me from home, and I'm so relatively close to Innsbruck that it would be nice to, just take a couple of days to pop in and say good day and go and catch up with a few people while I was there, and spend a bit of time checking everything out, which was terrific. And the weather gods very kind. It was absolutely beautiful weather. So yeah, it was terrific. A couple of days just to sort of go and spend time there. I went there once when I was a kid, so I have sort of vague recollections of it, but I hadn't properly ever been there before, and it was a bit of a little bit bizarre to sort of walk around the city and not really have ever been there before, but yet know exactly know my way around there very easily, which is always a little bit unusual.
Right, it's kind of like a nostalgic feeling, probably.
Yeah, and just staring at maps and imagery and things for months on end, and therefore just it's that sort of back of the hand kind of knowledge of the area without actually, but yet it's still being the first time that I'm visiting most of these places.
And did you get to fly in, or did you take the train in there?
I took the train in. Always a very civilized way to do things. I love flying, but anything that avoids airport passport controls and
Yeah, that's
security and
true.
things like that, it's terrific. So yeah, I caught the train in, the train out. I was coming in from the west, so I was coming in from Zurich, and then I flew home from Munich, so just caught the train up to Munich, which is close by. Yeah, it's great, very relaxing way to go and see a bit of the countryside as well. It's terrific.
Yeah, of all the times I've been to Zurich, I've probably been to Zurich about maybe 15 times in the last 10 years, and it never occurred to me during those times that I should take a train ride over to Innsbruck. It never occurred to me that I should probably do that. But I'm envious because it's one of the top 5 places in Europe that I have yet to see that's really high on my list. So
Very beautiful.
Yeah, I have a trip to Spain that I'll probably be going maybe in September, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have to try to see if I can find a way to make that happen. It's a bit further away though,
Yeah,
but
but it's a little bit, you're in the same boat where it's so far away. It's a little bit easier, I find, to sort of justify taking that little journey as a side trip because you are so far from home. What's a couple of more hours distance to go and visit somewhere compared to, for me, 23 hours to actually get to Europe in the first place. So, yeah.
did you guys land? I'm trying to. Everyone just kind of disappeared here.
Yeah, I'm on the ground.
Ah, okay. So I need to find the heliport here. Oh, there it is. Okay, everyone's down there. I'm like, wait a minute. I just saw everyone and everyone's gone. Okay. And now this is a higher detailed heliport, is it?
Yes, that's correct. This is one of the high detail ones.
Are those cows?
Yeah.
Can't have Switzerland without cows. Even Zurich Airport, I don't know if they still do it now, but in the hill just outside of the airport, they used to have a little pasture of cows just there for no real reason. I guess if people are new to Switzerland and want to see cows, they had a whole thing of cows just kind of sitting out there. I always thought that was kind of funny. I would just go walk right up to the cows. Oh yeah, this is very much high detailed. Nice polygon and building textures and everything up here. Very nice. And I really have to say a huge thanks for considering doing these heliports because I think a lot of people forget that helicopter flying is really a big part of flight simulation, and we're always thinking 777s and A320s, and I think nowadays a lot of people forget just how fun and immersive helicopter experiences can be. So little things like this really do make all the difference.
hmm and I think, like, I always like to, if there's an interesting heliport, I really like to always include it in the scenery because, like, it gives it an alternative destination to fly to. And I think, like, I spend quite a bit of my very limited flying time in helicopters, partly because it's an easy way to sort of test and explore the airport I'm working on. Yeah, so it's always fun, and particularly with these Alps airports, there's so many of these heliports dotted around. In fact, there's probably another two or three that I could have easily done in the coverage area, but it just would have taken too much time to add them in again. It's a
Right.
bit of a fun way, and it's an excuse for people to explore the proper coverage area properly rather than just buzzing over it at 6,000 feet. It gives that excuse for people to go and have a look properly and get down there nice and low.
Well, if you ever get bored, not that in your schedule that'll ever happen, but you could always consider doing mini heliport packages for $5 or something like that. I'm pretty sure something like that would probably do pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of teams, development teams. I know there's a crew that work on Austrian heliports like this, and then there wasn't there. I don't know if they're still around. Wasn't there a Swiss crew a few years ago that were doing a similar thing where they were doing Swiss heliports, rescue heliports dotted around the Alps as
There
well?
was, I think that was part of Fly Logic, if I remember correctly. I think that might have been Fly Logic, and then LLH Creations did some
Yeah. So
heliports in the French Alps as well. Yeah,
yeah. All right. Well, shall we kick on and keep going?
yeah, let's do it.
Great. All right. So I think what we'll do is we'll sort of skip over the top of. I think there's a glacier that we might head over the top of, maybe if I remember the right direction.
Okay.
But we're going to head west and intersect the edge of the Brenner Pass, and then take the Brenner Pass into part of Innsbruck. So for those like me 6 months ago who didn't know a huge amount about it, the Brenner Pass is quite famous because it's one of the primary routes to get from Northern Europe down into Southern Europe. So basically from Germany into Italy. There's the major freeway that runs down the centre and the rail route as well. So it's very, very popular particularly for sort of, like the trucking that needs to goods north and south, and also historically, since like Roman times, the Brenner Pass has been a very strategic valley to get from one side to the other.
Let's get a little bit of history on our tour as well. Back in the day, it was Roman soldiers, and today it's toilet paper and iPhones.
Yeah, that's right. Just had a comment. I'm just looking in the feed here. Someone's asking if I can turn myself up. I'm just going to try. Can you report back and see if that's better or not?
Let me see if let me check OBS and see if I can make you any louder. Hang on. All right, let's try that. Say something again.
All right, just testing this one again. So TU114 just made the comment. I don't know if he's still watching or not.
And it could be that my volume is just overshadowing yours. Let me turn my volume down a bit, actually, because that could be. All right, we'll try this. So for those of you watching the live, if you can just give us another check on sound. I've turned my volume down a bit and turned Jarrad up a bit. So Jarrad, you want to give another quick test?
That looks like, so our person says that that's okay, I think.
Okay.
So that should be fine.
And that 530 is moving pretty fast. My wife is texting me.
That pantyhose?
I'm gonna text and fly. Yeah, I need to have her pick some up actually. She's like, "Are you still streaming?" Because they left the house. When I start streaming, they run away. Okay, let me just yes. There we go. Okay, hopefully I didn't crash here. Wow, look at that valley come into view. That is amazing. Okay, let me see. Where did you go? Let me see. There's the Huey. Ah, there we are.
Okay, so we're just we're just flying down the valley here, through here. So again, this is just skirting the edge of the scenery coverage area. So this is on the southern extent. So if we look to our left, we're looking south into Italy. So in the general direction of, I think, Bolzano, and then and then straight ahead in the very, very far distance, we'd be looking into Switzerland.
This is fun. And look at the difference in the elevation up here. No trees up here. It's all kind of like barren.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this coverage area is just huge. And for those of you chatting, sorry, I'm not really doing a good job monitoring the chat today. But again, if you would like, you're welcome to come. We are in TeamSpeak over at Digital Theme Park, ts3.digitalthemepark.com. And if you like to grab a helicopter and jump in here, you are more than welcome to. There's a few of us up here now. I think I counted, 5 of us
User disconnected from your channel.
that are flying around. Someone disconnected. I think I heard a couple of people come in. I don't know if I acknowledged them. Is anyone else here that I didn't acknowledge yet? No, everyone's here. But yes, those of you watching, if you are just sitting in front of your computer and would like to jump in and chat with Jarrad live, you are definitely more than welcome to. I'm busy working the helicopter stick here, so I'm not able to check the chat too much. But definitely toward the end of the stream, if you typed any questions that weren't answered, make sure you just retype your questions toward the end, and I'll speed through the questions there and see if we can get them answered for you. And if you're just joining us and you don't know what's going on, we are flying around Innsbruck, which is the latest release from Jarrad Marshall, who is giving us his personal tour live, which is definitely a new way to experience a scenery by having a developer take us around himself. So I appreciate you giving us what is it, 4 o'clock in the morning there on Monday now, Jarrad?
20 past 3, but yes.
20 past 3.
It's all blending into one.
The sun will be coming up sooner or later, and you'll still be cracking away, I'm sure.
Yeah, when the sun comes up, I know I'm up too late.
I mean,
all right, so we're just coming in.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're a little bit behind me, so I might just hold up and give you a chance to catch up. But I'm just entering the pass now, or just the very northern end of the pass.
And I was going to point out, I mean, you have these areas on the back sides of these mountains that are nowhere near the view of the main town itself, and yet we've got all the autogen down there. And as far as the autogen buildings are concerned, did you have to create all new custom autogen to populate this area?
In terms of types, I'm just using a combination of types from that were originally created for Open Land Class Europe. So the extra sheets, they're very basic types. So you'll notice that you haven't got that sort of complex Tyrolean or Swiss style architecture for the houses. Just very basic, and that's for performance reasons. But yeah, the texturing and the roof texturing you might recognise from some of the European land class sub-regions. And the vegetation is a combination of different groupings. So a couple that I made custom for Innsbruck. There's a couple that Alex made for Block Island. A couple of other types again, which are just stock standard Orbx descriptions. So they're all utilising pretty common tree types. But yeah, I just for the ease of development and to create the kind of variety that I wanted while still having good performance, I'm using just a core couple of vegetation groups.
And speaking of performance, I don't think I've seen my frames drop just with the helicopter here. I haven't seen them drop below 32, but they tend to be, I'm at unlimited, so it tends to be hanging at around 47 to 50 and then dropping down as low as 39. The lowest I've seen so far is 32. So very well optimized as well.
Thank you. I stressed more about this more than anything else is the performance. And there was a lot of questions from people when the screenshots were coming out, worried about performance. And it's easy for me to come in and say, I've spent a huge amount of effort to try and make sure this is optimized. But at the end of the day, I'm also the salesman of my own scenery. So, people are going to take that however they want. I could just be saying that just to sell my product. But, it is something across the board with all my products I've really tried very hard to do is to really get the best performance out of it. And so far, knock on wood, performance, the overwhelming feedback is that people have been really surprised in a positive way performance, which is terrific, and to be honest is a great relief because we have a very diverse testing team who all have different setups, and they test every component, and we're always testing with high-end aircraft and low-end aircraft, and running the NGX and the A320, and even the 777 and the 747 got a few test runs. Just to test different combinations of high-end products, and we couldn't find any problems with it. But as with anything with flight sim, there's so many different permeations of software setup that you're going to have one or two people that are going to find something. But yeah, I've been very relieved so far. So I'm just coming up to right now. I'm flying under the Europa Bridge,
and I'm going to land on it.
Was one of the tallest. Oh, it doesn't have a hardened platform.
What?
Yeah,
I am surprised.
I'll point out that anything with a complex shape that needs a platform, it's not a bug, but it is a limitation in FSX and P3D that anything that you assign a platform to takes an unnecessarily high performance impact. So if you've got a very simple platform thing, so like a bridge that's perfectly flat and you can just put a single rectangle on it, that's fine. But when you've got complex shapes for bridges, then you're getting sort of 5,000 or 6,000 poly count for the platform. That we've just found that it does have a very unnecessarily high performance impact. And because all the bridges in Innsbruck are quite complex shapes, I just decided that I would prefer performance over the ability to land on the bridges. And usually whenever there are little features like that get missed, it's always because we've done it to save on performance.
Well, guess what?
That balance sheet. What's that?
I'm down.
No joke. Really?
I'm down. Come back over here.
There you go. Okay. Maybe I did. I know I didn't for most of the bridges. Maybe I did. I might need to eat my hat.
Because I know that was one of the big things that you did with Sedona as well, the big bridge there. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe I did. Okay, I take that all back, and that's definitely applicable to every other bridge. But I made this bridge separate, so there you go. I did harden it.
It's like I'm probably the only person in the world that really wants to do this, but you know, it's
No, I had someone else ask about it today too.
Oh, did you? Oh, so I'm not the only so I'm
Yeah.
not crazy then. So good.
Ah,
Now you went through.
I'm good. I'm down.
Oh, you are down, but you disappeared into the bridge though. That's weird. Maybe come back over here where we are. Maybe
Oh yeah, you
it's
guys are.
different flattens in different areas of the bridge maybe.
Yes, because you guys are floating on my end.
Oh, are
That's all good.
we?
So,
Oh, that's weird.
hmm,
Let's see. This is Kim,
all
right?
good.
By the way,
Kim,
everybody more or less at the same level.
how does this look in Oculus right now? This has to probably just look insane, I imagine.
It's without a doubt the most beautiful scenery I've flown with the Oculus.
Oh my
You
God,
don't even notice the resolution when the
really?
scenery is that high detail. Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh my God. When we're done with the stream, that's the first thing I'm gonna do is put the Oculus on. I'm just thinking this must look insane.
It
I can't
does.
have it on during the stream, but oh man, I bet. Okay, Jared, where are you at? We're gonna follow you now.
I'm gonna zoom under the bridge, and then we'll keep heading
Okay,
back into the city.
I'm gonna go under the bridge as well. Whee!
And the performance as well. It's
Oh
actually for
wow!
me.
That was stupid. I crashed. I was not paying attention to what I was doing, and I just went right off. Okay, let me go back into so I can actually pay attention. All right. I flung right off that thing and went right into the mountain. Okay, so we're heading towards the city now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay, leading the charge up there. And now we can start taking a look at some of the points of interest in the city now.
Yeah. So now we're getting into the actually really properly detailed part of the scenery.
And just
And
a
so
quick note for those watching as well. So there are 3 heliports altogether. I think we're not visiting one, right? Or was there just the 2?
there's 5 total. We visited 2. We won't visit 1, and then there's the 2 inside the city limit. So the main primary heliport where we took off from, and then the university rooftop, the hospital rooftop helipad.
And
So
you
as
really
we
did get all the bridges. Okay.
So as we head down this little valley here, you can see the power lines straddling the valley. So just be careful, because I've modelled the actual power line cables across these valleys because they are a hazard. And there are quite a few parts of the detailed section with the power lines where I have modelled those cables. So yeah, just keep an eye out. I'm flying quite low, and if you guys are as well, just keep an eye out for it.
And do those have like the little crash boxes on there as well? If you have crashes turned on, you'll crash any of those?
Yeah, it's not super realistic. I made the crash boxes quite broad, again, just a performance reason. But yeah, you'll probably snap something if you try and fly through with crash detection.
And that's a nice touch that you've even colored them. I'm sure they're colored like that in real life so that they're visible during the day for flying aircraft as well.
Yeah, that's right. And sort of the idea I had that started me down that track was that when you fly the circling approach to runway 8, there is a sort of a little sub valley just past the town of Axons, where basically where you do your 180 turn, there's a little valley. And when I was looking at YouTube videos of airliners doing it, I noticed that those where the power lines cross that little sub valley, they're marked. So all the ones that are marked in the red and white are in real life. And so where they cross the valley, it's quite noticeable. So that's why I decided to do those with the cables in the correct colours. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do them, I'll do this little sub valley here just below the ski slope. And then, you know, if I'm going to do that, I might as well do the main power lines that go past the airport as well, as one big model.
And another thing I want to point out too is there are no traffics. There's no vehicle traffic on the road. So
No, that was just a little last-minute omission from my end. The source files, when I did my last compile, I forgot to select that layer. So that's just, it's not a big drama to get that up and running. I'll just patch that at some point during the week.
okay, so that's an update that we'll see soon as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. We've got
Could
the
you
ski slopes
imagine?
here.
I would crap my pants going down there in a ski and a skateboard and anything. I mean, I don't know how they do that. That is insane.
Apparently they do it during the summer as well. Like they just go down on the what I presume it's like AstroTurf or something like that, and they just do it during the summer as well.
Wow. And where do they land? I guess do they land in that area in front of the church, or where do they land when they come off of this thing? I have to pull that up on YouTube.
Yeah, go and watch. There's a great compilation I found from the mid '80s. There was one particular competition day where just so many people stacked it. These competitors, I mean, you laugh, it's pretty dangerous. In fact, it's very dangerous. But the commentators are just having a field day from this, you know, the equivalent of whatever the Austrian-wide World of Sports TV show is. And that was when I googled YouTube videos for this. That was the first thing that popped up. It's definitely worth a bit of a look.
Wow.
All right, so we're going to head over just down to the actual Olympic Park now, which is where the two stadiums are. So there's the Olympic Stadium, which was built for the Winter Olympics, I think in 78, 74, perhaps. And then the soccer, or the football stadium, should I say? We're in Europe, so it needs to be football. The local football stadium, which was host to one of the World Cups, one of the European Cups. They had some matches here, and they actually built, which is quite interesting. And in the aerosol version of Innsbruck, they have this from the old version. So specifically for the soccer tournament that was on, because they had such a high capacity, they built a temporary second tier to the stadium. Just for, I think it was only built for 12 months or so, that they built this, basically doubled the size of the stadium temporarily, and then they took it back down. So I thought that was pretty impressive when I was doing some research on that. So I think because of the age of when the aerosoft scenery was developed, that would have been how it looked then. So you can see that there.
Very nice. So the one to the left or the right is the one that's no longer standing, the open air or the closed air building?
The open air one is the one that was doubled in capacity, and now it's back to its regular size. And the one with the closed roof is the original Olympic Stadium. And if you get down, actually on the street level of the Olympic Stadium, you can see the Olympic rings. They've got some giant rings on the front facade there.
On the glass there, yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. Yep. And then probably nearby, which we'll head to next, is just the main train station, just the Innsbruck Central train station.
Oh, there's a moving train!
Yeah, the freight train.
Yes, the freight train! I don't know why I'm such a sucker for trains.
So there's the 5 different animated train routes, and then obviously a whole bunch of static trains as well. And they run across the whole course of the scenery coverage area. So they sometimes can be a little bit hard to spot because there's quite a lot of track for them to cover and not a huge amount of trains themselves. But yeah, that freight train is usually the easiest to spot because it has the shortest route.
Wow. This is so freaking cool. And we've got our chase rabbit there running right along through there as well.
Yeah, that's right. Intersects through there. I think what I might take to next is just I thought it's cool. It's a really new bridge in real life. So there's Nordkit, which is the basically the funicular of the car that goes up to the mountain, the ski resorts, or the ski slope, should I say, directly behind the city. And so there's quite a historic car that used to a rail car that used to run up, and I don't know how long, fancy new one. And basically there's a bridge over the river which is part of it, and it's a very funky new sort of twisted bridge design which is very on trend at the moment. So I made sure I did that.
Let me see. I'm just flying over it. I think if this is the one, or are you looking for it? There's a few bridges
I'm
here.
basically directly over the top of it right now.
Okay, let me
So
follow
this
you.
is where I am. Yeah. So if you take a left from where you are.
What is this? Is that a walkway? That bridge that's going upward? That elevated one there? What is that?
That's the previous bridge. So that's the old historic one. Which
Oh,
I think they
that's for a
kept it.
train, is it? There's like a track on it.
Yeah, yeah. So that goes up the mountain. It's quite I know it as a funicular. I know that there's different names, but you know those railways that go up the sides of the mountains.
And then the new one is the suspension bridge here.
Just a bit further down. Yes. So with the two giant diagonal poles sticking out of it.
Wow, that's a lot of attention to detail.
There's a few requests. The guys that took my source photos, these were a couple of components that they wanted to see, so I made sure I put them in there. But yeah, all these
Good on them.
are all designed custom. Yeah, exactly. So all these bridges are custom designed to match the real life ones.
I know from your point of view, you're like, doggone it, now that's just one more thing I have to do, but
Nah, it's good. It's fun. I like them. Those kinds of little details. They're pretty fun to make. I like
it
them.
is.
And I probably spend too much time doing it. I should really cut back, but you know, it's fun.
Well, you know, I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again. I'm one of those kind of people that could literally just spend hours on Google Earth, just, you know, touring around places that I've never been, or if I'm going to visit a place, I like to do the street view and the satellite views and really just kind of immerse myself in what's there. But you can kind of tour the world, and you know, I've been saying it with flight simulation, and what developers have been doing lately is you can visit a place like, you know, because I think there's a Google flight simulator. I've never tried it, but with Prepared and with something like Zurich, what you've done here, I mean, you can literally tour a place and really get an idea of what it's like. And honestly, if, like, for example, if I'm planning a trip to Innsbruck and I want to know, okay, what are all the points of interest, I can go buy one of those. I forget what those guides are called. Those little guides you can buy from
Lonely Planets.
Yeah, Lonely Planet, right? You can go buy a Lonely Planet guide, but then you can actually go into the Innsbruck scenery and actually look at them and kind of get an idea. I think I'll come here first, and then I'll work my way across the city and go over there. And I mean, it's really amazing. And you know, all the little points of interest, the important aspects of the scenery are here that you would find in real life. So I mean, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much. It's yeah, and you know, like it's always a thing. It's always it's very hard to find the point at which you stop adding details like that. You know, we call it feature creep, where you know, if time was endless and you know I didn't have to worry about anything other than just making the scenery, then you know I would probably add another couple of dozen landmarks in this Innsbruck scenery as well. But at some point, you just got to realize what is what is viable and what's not. And, you know, and I always try to with those sort of points of interest and features. You know, there's obviously sort of the tourist trap kind of things as well, and things like the Golden Roof, which a lot of people were asking about. But I really try to emphasize landmarks that are important or are more noticeable when you're flying. You know, things that would otherwise, you know, like an ugly industrial building that serves no interest in real life, or, you know, like a nondescript hotel or something. But when you're flying the approach, it's very obvious.
Right, exactly.
So that's, you know, it's just trying to work out what the balance is.
Exactly, and that's the approach is really the big deal. Okay.
Yeah, so are you on the helipad yet? I see someone's...
Nope, he just zoomed right by me. Okay, so let's head over to the helipad now. Ooh, can we all fit on here?
Oh.
All right, so this is the hospital now. And I think if I remember correctly from the screenshots, I think we had some people flow here with like a stretcher and
Yeah, they're a little bit textured down, but yes, there's just some modified ones that I included
you even
for
bothered to
the
put in
helipod.
the little thing for them to clean the windows. I forget what those things are called.
Yes,
The
yes, that was quite difficult to get up and running.
That's detailed. I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's not animated.
Uh, yeah. I'm pretty sure one of the beta testers asked that somewhere along the way.
Let's see here. In case anyone else tries to land, I'm trying to stay as close to the edge as possible here. Make some room here. And there's a guy there with, he's kind of wanding in aircraft as well. This kind of reminds me of the hospital helipad over in Reading, which is a lot of
Yes.
fun too.
Yeah, sure. It's about as tricky to land on as well.
Yes, it is. Just gonna back
You know,
up here a little bit.
you've got the added danger of lopping off limbs from these guys that are standing on the helipad as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Especially with, I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like having active sky running in the middle of winter with the wind gusts and everything coming through here. I'm sure it
Yeah,
would be
absolutely.
a challenge, no doubt. Let me just zoom in on this a little bit. And so they're all, oh, okay, so they're not really people flow, they're just kind of static people here.
Yeah, they're just static. They're not animated.
And yeah, because I think with Reading, yeah, you had a guy who's like almost in the way with wanding the helicopters in, and I think I almost always take his head off.
Yes,
So.
that's right.
And it looks like quite a few people have actually joined us here in the server. I'm seeing a lot of labels over at the airport itself. So a lot of people are checking out the airport. So it looks like quite a few people have gotten in line and purchased. I guess there were no issues with Orbx servers. I saw that everyone, no one had issues. Usually when something new was out and they
Mhm.
can't get it right away, there's always a lot of complaints. But so far it looks like there were no issues with the new Orbx Direct. Everyone was able to get it. Download time for me was, I think, 10 minutes, and that was it. I was really impressed with how fast I got it.
Yeah, sure. I know that Ben and the team have he's put a lot of thought and really been stressing about getting it right. In fact, the whole team, the web team, have been pushing it really hard. You know, and as you say, I've seen maybe one or two people that have had a few issues that have posted a support topic, but the majority of comments that I've read have been similar experiences to you, where people have downloaded them in times faster than what they were expecting and not had any trouble with it.
Yeah, and a huge
User
shout
joined your
out
channel. Joined your
definitely
channel.
to Ben who makes all of this stuff possible.
Mm-hmm.
He did
Yes,
all
he's
the work into
been.
this new program.
Yep.
Okay, where are you now? I'm airborne once again.
I'm just circling.
Another good indication of how good the scenery is. I just ran out of fuel. That's not very often I do that.
And were you at a full tank when we started off?
I was.
Wow. Yeah, when I do live streams, I always make sure to set it to unlimited because, yeah, you never know. Let's see.
All right.
All right, where are we off to next? I'm trying to see
Okay,
where
so
you're
we're
at.
going to. I'm just following the river towards the airport.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
Yep. And I'm gonna get out, go down to the general aviation side because I think it's something that's easily overlooked. But I really wanted to put a lot of detail in it, primarily because the three guys who were enormously helpful with taking the photographs and also answering my 40,000 questions that I had are all guys who are heavily involved with particularly a couple of the flying clubs and the flying schools and the gliding clubs. So, you know, as a bit of a thank you to them, I wanted to make sure that I did this side of the airport properly. And also, you know, because it is quite often overlooked because it is over on the other side in the corner, you know, like it's really that genuine general aviation side of the airport. It's quite often easy to overlook the fact that there is a proper general aviation portion to Innsbruck Airport, not just, you know, like a token little parking spot in the corner for the visiting occasional piper or whatever, but there is actually a massive thriving general aviation and gliding club that's based here.
Yeah, and you did put a lot of detail into this area as well. Let's get a little bit closer to the ground and look at this.
And so that those buildings just behind the gliding club as well, where you can see the observatory on the top of the apartment complex, that's all a campus of the university as well. Through there, I think it's Technical University. I might be wrong, or the Technical School.
And that was one of the things I was most curious as well when you first mentioned that you were going to do this, was I was always wondering how far were you going to go in determining what buildings you would model versus what buildings you would model, because there's a lot of interesting architecture in Innsbruck. You've got the old architecture from billions of years ago, and you've got, you know, stuff that was built in the 70s and 80s, and then you have a lot of modern architecture that have all sprung up within the last decade or so. And I was really curious if you were going to be able to accurately reflect the contrasts in the architecture of the city. And I'm surprised, or not surprised to say, but really happy to see that you've really included all of it, which was I was always unsure how far you were going to go, because as you mentioned, feature creep, and Innsbruck is definitely a feature creep location, given the fact that the airport is right in the middle of the city and surrounded by so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, you're right. Like, with a very, very, very amateur interest in architecture, you know, I quite enjoy modeling some of these different styles. There's a fair bit of brutalist kind of architecture from the 70s. You know, like that really strong concrete, quite imposing kind of architecture around there, and then obviously there's a huge amount of traditionally Tyrolean architecture. You see that particularly with the houses and the churches, and then, as you said, there is a bunch of more modern architecture as well.
And I don't know yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to point out, so these two wooden hangars, the double hangars, they have an interesting story. The previous version of Innsbruck Airport, I'm not sure when it shut, I think maybe in the 60s, was on the opposite side of the city, so it was probably 4 or 5 kilometers to the west, actually quite close to where that elevated railway bridge was. So that was the previous old Innsbruck Airport, which was a grass field.
Oh wow!
And so those two hangars are from the original airport. And so if you Google image the history of Innsbruck Airport, you can actually see photos of those two hangars on the opposite side of the city. And then I think they were listed as maybe historical buildings or something like that. So they were transplanted over to the new airport whenever it was built. I was talking to one of the photo guys a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that because it is a historic building, there are some limitations on what they can do. So it's actively used by the flying club hangars. But yeah, so things like, you know, any kind of electrical work that they add in there, there's a whole, you know, there's all these limitations on what they can and can't do because it's a
landmark,
heritage listed heritage listed building. So I was wondering why, because it's such an anomaly visually compared to the rest of the architecture of the airport. But yeah, that's the story of it.
And I don't know if you want to mention their names at all. It's up to you, but I guess we should definitely give a shout out to the folks that helped you out in these areas, because looking at it, it's obvious there was on-site photography here.
There was a huge amount of help. So it was Fabian and 2 Fabians and Maximilian. So Maxi and Fabian, absolute top guys, just super helpful, really nice, really keen to help out, and just did terrific photography as well. Probably one of the best photographed fields I have had.
Wow.
It makes such a difference in terms of just making life so much easier for me, having good quality source material to start off with. So yes, big shout out to them. I'm sure they'll probably be watching it at some point, particularly Fabian. He'll be watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about it because we were talking about the folks who helped you out, and I thought, yes, we should definitely give them a shout out for their assistance because
Yeah, absolutely.
obviously, you know, their contribution has really made, I'm sure, a big difference in terms of just how detailed the airport is. Another quick thing I'll point out here, two things. One thing is we've got two new static aircrafts in the library I don't think I've seen before, which are these diamonds out here.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Well, I can't remember exactly how many, but yeah, there's a few that I've slipped in. So all the aircraft that you see on the field here are all modified in some way, shape, or form specific for Innsbruck. So most of them are new new paint schemes for for unique aircraft that are seen in Innsbruck. Even things like the old favourite the Piper Warriors and the Cessna 172s. They're not just. I haven't just given them a new registration and used the same paint scheme that you see in the Orbx libraries. They're actually, custom paint designed based on photos of aircraft that I've seen at Innsbruck. So yeah, the diamond katanas, the DA40 and the DA20 are very popular. Obviously because they're an Austrian company, but particularly in Innsbruck, they're very popular. So I made sure I included them, and in fact, the DA40 that you see parked in front of the wooden hangar is flown by one of the guys who's doing his student license at the moment, or his commercial license, should I say. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, I went flying in that particular aircraft for a bit of a joy flight around the Alps, which was terrific fun. Yeah. So that particular aircraft I included specifically, again, because those guys fly in that aircraft, so I thought I'd better include it.
Right.
And there's a few other aircraft that I did specifically for Innsbruck as well. So particularly the Eurocopter helicopters, we haven't used in any of our projects before, so they're unique to Innsbruck as well. And then just repainting all the aircraft in different liveries that you would see at the airport.
Yeah, and the car here as well, is this, because we were looking at San Diego and we were looking at the new Orbx static vehicle models. Is this part of that, or is this something different? Because this is a very detailed vehicle.
Yeah, so this one is part of, I slipped in a few, just a couple of the new Turbo Squid models. This is one of them, a nice Mercedes. I don't know what it is, it's just a cash in. Whoops, sorry, whoever I was crashing into.
Oh, is that you? I thought you had a yellow one, but yours turned black. I thought that was someone else.
I did a discreet little change of clothes a while ago.
Okay.
I had an engine out, and I didn't want to tell anyone.
Vicky, you sly dog, you.
I quickly went and parked it in a quiet little street out of sight while you guys were on the helipad.
Good job.
Yeah. So that one is. But what I've been most actually something I was quite proud of was that all the airside, the GSE, the ground service vehicles, almost all of them I've created from scratch and in very, very high detail, specifically for Innsbruck. So like basically all those yellow vehicles and a bunch of the vans and the different components there, the baggage trucks, all those kinds of things I created from scratch, specifically because I do reuse my own kind of stuff, and there's a little bit of the Orbx libraries components that I do use in my airports, but predominantly I just create my own. And because the last umpteen projects I've made have been for US airports, then obviously all the vehicles are all US vehicle types, including like Chevy and GM brand airside vehicles. So part of something that added probably about 3 weeks worth of development time was creating all these custom GSE. And again, part of the reason why I would like to create a couple more European airports is because I've created this nice set of components, not only the vehicles, but there's a whole bunch of stuff which is more suited to the European style of airport, which I'll be able to reuse again.
And the next thing I wanted to point out here, and this is kind of a big deal because this is one of the things that I struggle with Sedona. And for a short period of time, you guys had a gentleman, an Italian gentleman. His name was Frank.
User
I don't
joined
know
your
how you
channel.
pronounce his last name, Denise or Denise or
Mhm.
something like that. And I'm not sure if he's still with Orbx, but you know, he did that magnificent Monument Valley and Devil's, what is that? The Devil's something or
Yeah,
other,
Devil's
and
Tower.
Devil's
Yep,
Tower,
and
Wyoming.
yep,
And
and Yosemite.
and Yosemite, thank you. Yeah, the Half Dome. And when he did those, you know, I think you were working on Sedona around the time I think he was doing Monument Valley, or maybe it was before or after. I can't remember clearly, but I remember thinking that, you know, the whole 3D terrain model is really kind of the wave of the future for certain regions because depending on your viewpoint,
Mhm.
sometimes the mesh can look really blurry, but if you zoom all the way back, it's really sharp, and it's just kind of the limitations of Flight Simulator. And I was thinking, you know, Jarrad needs to like start getting into that because you know, it'll make a huge difference on a lot of his sceneries because like when you're approaching Sedona, it's all mesh, so it's blurry, but then as you get closer to the scenery, it starts to get
Yep.
crisp as you get closer to the airport. And
Yep.
you dabbled a little bit with that here in Innsbruck. Tell us about the cliff face here.
Yeah, so again, it's one of the big limitations of the visual engine in FSX and P3D is that any photo texture that's draped over the terrain, and wherever the terrain stretches drastically across the horizontal, so things like cliffs and whatnot, you don't get that horizontal stretch in a photo texture. You
Right.
just get that stretched over the you know the flat dimension. So you get that massive stretching. And yeah, what Frank was doing is terrific, and you know Sedona would lend itself perfectly to that kind of 3D mesh, but you know there's geographical and you know just size limitations for what's practical and what's not. And Sedona, as much as it would be perfect for it, it would be quite geographically quite difficult to do because it's such an expansive area. Whereas things you know like the Half Dome or you know Monument Valley or you know this single cliff face here, which is so iconic because you know every air spotter, you know, every plane spotter photo from Innsbruck has that massive cliff straight behind it.
Right.
So you know, I thought I'd get into it and you know do some work, which is you know it would be it was a deal breaker otherwise because you know that cliff is so obvious and it's so obviously stretched because it's almost totally vertical. So there needed to be something in there that was a substitution for the photoreal mesh. Yeah, it was cool. And it was surprising it wasn't a huge amount of time for that particular one,
User disconnected from your channel.
which I didn't expect. I sort of had allocated a fair bit of time to work on that feature, and it ended up being a little
User
bit
joined your channel.
less painful than I was expecting.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference without a doubt. I think this was one of the things that Swimwing struggled with a few years back with their Gibraltar because in the case there as well, you've got just these huge cliff faces that drop straight to the ocean. But you know,
Mm.
another thing that I noticed about this is when we were coming in back into the scenery from the second heliport, and all the way from a far distance, you could kind of see the photoreal kind of blurry at a distance as it always is. But that one
Mm.
part of the cliff face I noticed was just crisp from
Mm.
probably 20 miles away or whatever it was that we were. So
Mm.
yeah, it definitely makes a huge deal. And when I saw that in the control panel, when it said 3D cliff face, and I'm like, no, did Jarrad actually start getting into doing the whole 3D thing? So yeah, that's a huge deal, and I really wanted to
Mm.
point that out for those watching as well because the 3D cliff really does make a huge difference, especially in stuff like this.
Yeah, thanks. And also another reason for sort of emphasizing it is that a lot of the gliders who do their gliding are up getting
User left
really
your
stuck
channel.
up. They're using the updrafts around those particular
User
mountain
left your channel.
faces. So you're seeing a lot
User
of
left your channel.
you're seeing a lot of those aircraft, the gliders up and close. So for those of you who are into the gliding, you know, you need to make sure that it's looking good for when you're getting up nice and close and personal.
Which is a
All
very
right,
good
so
idea.
maybe the next part, are we? I don't know. This is testing my limited knowledge of multiplayer because I haven't done it for such a long time. Are we able to get out and have a bit of a walk around or not? Or are
Yeah, we
in the
are.
helicopters today?
Yeah, the only thing is I won't be able to see you, but yeah, we can definitely get out and walk around. Where
Alright.
should we, because I went to the first person perspective because I wasn't sure if we were just going to float around the airport or get on the ground. So yeah, let's definitely do that.
Well, maybe if we park at if we go back and land at the heliport,
Okay.
and then we can just take a bit of a wander from there, just along the flight line, and have a look at a few of the things. Maybe have a look at the car park. I know that's something that you would like to.
Oh,
give
you
your
know it.
verdict on.
You know it. Should I switch to winter now to start taking a look at that, or should we hold off on that?
We should hold off on that. I think.
Okay. And I'll go back onto that that little dolly there. You can take the helipad if you
User
want.
joined your channel.
Right.
There's a lot of people coming and going from the channel here. For those of you watching live, we are live in TeamSpeak via Digital Theme Park. If you'd like to come in and chat with us, or if you'd like to come in and fly around, there's still a few people flying as well. For all the info, just pull up TeamSpeak, dial in ts3.digitalthemepark.com, and you're welcome to come in and join us. All right, let's see if I can put this thing on top of this back here. If I can. The eye point is like so difficult. Sometimes I don't know if I'm over it or not. All right, back up a little bit here. Oh, nope, that wasn't it. I thought I was over.
Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going? Josh, I think I recognize that voice.
Hey, congratulations on the prettiest scenery I've ever experienced. It's like,
Thanks, man.
you know what
is
sold
awesome.
it to me was my first, right when I first came in and sat at the airport for less than 10 seconds, I was already overwhelmed. It was just like, get me that quick. Amazing.
It is
Alright, so
extremely
I'm on
amazing.
the ground as well. So how do we do this? Do we just swap over to Avatar?
Yeah, so I won't be able to, I don't think I'll be able to see you.
You can substitute him with the avatar guy, maybe. I'm not sure if you're able to do
Oh, yeah. Oh, are we able to do that? That's a good question. Let me see if I can do that. Good thinking. Let me see if that'll work.
Okay, we all walk around as a group?
We can. It's just that in Join FS, they haven't made it so that you can see other avatars yet. It's yeah, that's like one of the last things I think they need to try to figure out. But let me see. Where is Jarrad? Let me see if I can do this. Let me see. It's under aircraft, right?
I sure they could get a pub and we could have a pub and sit down.
Let me see, where is Jarrad? Because Jarrad is giving us a tour, so it's important that we see him no matter what he's in. No, I don't think it will work because when he gets out of his aircraft, the aircraft is still going to be there, and if I substitute him, it'll just substitute his aircraft. I still won't be able to see him.
What
you can
about if
spawn
I-
as the avatar guy without being attached to a plane.
Oh, so he would have to, I don't know, how does that work?
Yes, remind me, how do I do that? I know I've done it before, I just can't remember how to spawn.
I think
as
it's
the avatar.
Control A or something? I can't remember.
No, just select the aircraft and select the avatar guy.
Oh, so he has to select Avatar Guy from his aircraft selection menu.
I'm guessing, but I would think so.
Except that he's not in my menu. Oh, yep, here we go. Yep, I'm good to go.
Whereabouts are you
Alright.
guys?
I'm
What
on
was
the
that?
primary helipad.
Which helipad?
The primary helipad at just behind the airport.
All right.
Lojo.
Are you there already?
Yes, can you see me? I've just swapped over to Avatar.
No. I don't see you. I'm standing right at your helipad where your helicopter was. I don't actually see you.
You know where you might be able to do that is if you.
Or maybe
Give
I
me one
need to
moment.
change. Maybe I need to switch to Avatar as well, maybe? No, I don't think. I don't.
If
Maybe it,
avatar guy is not registered as an aircraft, I don't think Join FS will see it.
We'll
him
see it.
or,
yeah, if it's not registered as an aircraft, I don't think it will.
Okay. So maybe I'll just follow you around then. If you just start walking around, and maybe if we head to the Tyrolean hangar, which is that giant round hangar just to your left, we'll have a bit of a wander around. I'll just follow you around and we can have a chat while we go around.
So are you able to see me in Join FS, or are you just going to do it from the Twitch stream?
I'm just doing it from the Twitch stream.
Okay. Yeah, that's the last thing they have to try to figure out is how to do that. This Mercedes vehicle is nice. The texture baking here too is, I think, some of the best you've done as well. This is really crisp. Oh my gosh.
Talking about that earlier today.
Yeah. I know there's a way to make them run. I just can't remember what button it is.
R.
Ah, there we go. Oh, there's another dolly over here as well. Actually, there's more helipads back here. I didn't even know that. See, this is the most detailed Innsbruck I've ever seen, and a lot of the stuff in previous versions that I've seen, didn't include any of this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that.
So
You can actually walk right in. The gate is open.
So if you this little green mound, if you go to the right of that and then take a left into that's the run-up bay, the engine testing bay. So we can maybe go and have a look in there.
Oh, should I have gone through the fence maybe?
No, it's all good.
I see that you have little openings for me here, so I'm like trying to see where it'll actually let me in.
That's right. Yep. Maybe you might need to go through the fence in that case. To your right.
Yeah. So okay, I'll just go through the fence then, unless there's an opening over here somewhere. Do you want us to be on the air side or the land side still?
You can sneak in. So if you just take a right through that car park, you can sneak in next to that hangar. There is an access through to the air side.
Okay, well, I know there's a delay. So where I wound up is there's a little shed with some yellow pay movers and like lorries there.
Terrific. Yep, that's
Just-
right. We'll start there.
Okay, perfect. Actually, and there looks like an aircraft over here too. Is this new
Yeah.
as well?
Yes. So that little Piper aircraft, even though it has an N register, that's actually, so apparently one of the workers or maybe one of the managers at Tyrolean Maintenance owns this aircraft, so that's why it's parked out here. But apparently it's also only flown a couple of times a year at the moment. Everyone on the airport knows the guy, and yeah, he just uses it for his own use, and just keeps it nice and tucked away in the corner there.
A couple of times a year. Wow.
Apparently.
And another thing I'll point out here is the ground textures here are really super crisp as well.
Thanks. I spent a lot of effort really trying to get these looking nice for this one.
Yeah, this whole thing just pops at you.
It does. It really does. The grass looks new too. I think. Am I seeing new vegetation, or is that just my imagination?
Buddy
It's a
joined your channel.
slight variation of the model that I regularly use, but I always customize the grass to match the color palette of whatever airport I'm, to catch the ground underneath. Because one of the things I really like the look of is, pardon me, when you've got the 3D grass models that have exactly the same color of the grass underneath them, so that when you're flying in from a distance and you're looking down the runway, you don't sort of see those sort of harsh texture color changes between the ground underneath and then the grass over the top.
I see. And in my case, the only thing I removed, I should note that in the control panel, I activated everything except for the Q400 that you had parked here, and that's because I intend to use this area.
Yeah,
So
and that's why I specifically made it a single option, because I figured people would want to get stuck in here and have a bit of a look around.
Right, and then additionally, I saw a couple of comments too where people are like, well, there's a roadway that runs through here. There's a little truck there. There's a roadway that runs through the blast area. And some people are like, well, it's blocking the blast area. So I thought at least it'd be good to show them when it's not here, should they decide that they want to use it, so they can kind of get that as well.
Yes.
And I think this was one of the little parking lots in the back here as well. Yeah. Oh, I think this was the way you were going to have me come in, was through this this little area
This
here, I
little
believe.
gap. Or yeah, this is the little opening, but that's all good. We saw the. It was good to go around the back way because I wanted to talk about that Piper. I just thought it was so unusual.
And the
Also-
airport just lets them park it there too.
Yep.
So I guess now I'm heading towards the parking lot.
Sure. Yep. All right. So if we maybe if we go back, no, if we go that way, that's cool. We'll see a couple of features on the non-air side. Yep. So if you just keep following that road along the back of the hangars there, and then you'll eventually come to the giant. It's the entrance gate for the service vehicles. To the air side, the thing with all the lattice work and the cables. It's on the non-air side. Basically, if you just keep going straight, it's right in front of you. So that's the big entrance area, and that's also the back of the fuel farm as well.
Wow, just standing here at Avidar Eye Point and looking up at the mountains, just kind of towering over everything, that just looks so realistic.
What about the details?
The details are
Everywhere.
insane. I guess I can go out and come back in the parking lot. Is that what you were saying, Jarrett? Just
Yeah,
come
that's
around this
right.
way.
Yep.
Now this is how you do a mother effing parking lot. Wow, this is detail right here. Very nice. And Innsbruck is one of those few airports where the parking lot really is important because there's a lot going on the land side of this airport.
And also because you can see so much of it from the air side,
Yeah.
there's so many gaps and it's so close. And also very advantageous is that at least it's a concentrated area, which means that it's easier to add more detail. And, if this was any other airport, really, I wouldn't have been able to add that much detail because there just would have been too much performance penalty because there's such a large amount of geography to fill in with that detail. But because it's quite small, it makes it much easier.
About 20 minutes.
So, how many mouse clicks did it take to make the scenery?
More than I would want to.
It's funny because when I meet you guys in real life, I'm always surprised to see that no one has those carpal tunnel things on their wrists. Do you have any ergonomic options for being able to do this for so many hours on end every day?
Yeah, I'm very careful about that. About taking care of myself in that regards, and also making sure that everything that I have that I use, like the mouse and the keyboard and the mouse pad and my chair and stuff are all ergonomic. But one thing I did think that I'm going to do for my next project is I'm going to train my left hand for mouse use, just so I've got a bit of ambidextrous, should I say. I have who is a graphics designer who has the same kind of things that he needs to be cautious of, and he was saying it took him about 4 days to really become totally proficient with it. And then it gives you the option of mixing it up when I'm doing mouse heavy design, so particularly things like auto gem where you're just continually pressing hundreds of thousands of times your trigger finger on the mouse. The ability to mix that up would be quite useful.
Right, absolutely. You can kind of swap back and forth. And that must take some time to train yourself to do that. But someone in your field, I think, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a must. Damn, I'm just like the mountains, looking at the photoreal mountains in the background just from like the parking lot. It's like I'm actually here. I can't believe how well this looks. This is just, I'm like, is this my favorite scenery of all time now? Oh my goodness.
This is like my grandparents' train set in the garage back in the 50s.
Oh man. It's just everywhere I look, it's just eye candy galore here. This is just really amazing. Okay, so should we work our way onto the airfield now? Or where do you
Yeah.
want? Where should I go next? I guess is.
Yeah, I think so. If we just head down to the airfield and wherever you come out, we can take it from there. So just tell me where you end up, just because I've got that slight lag on my feed here.
Right. Okay. Well, right now I'm actually just under the glass, the little glass covering over the footpath by the cargo, or the, what do you call this, car park. Just looking at the glass work that you did here, which is really nice. I don't think you've
Thank you.
ever done any internal modeling yet. So if you ever decide to do that in the future, your glass work is already very good. So you're already just about there. I don't think I've seen
Yeah.
you do glass yet.
Yeah, glasses, it's not an unknown thing. It's normally a bit more discreet, tucked in different places. But yeah, internal modeling, I'm not a big advocate of, unless it's, for the right kind of project, it definitely must have, but I
Right.
haven't done a project yet where, like the whole front of the terminal is just, modern glass and a little bit of steel. And you need to be looking inside from the cockpit window, and it's a must-have. But otherwise, I have a strong opinion about it. It's a nice to have, but again, it's a balancing, and my preference is for things that are interesting to look at when you're flying. So
Right.
like it's basically it's an internal model, or creating more points of interest, and for me, that's just my personal preference, and like people will be very happy to tell me one way or another what they think of it, and I'm always happy to take it on. But again, it's just that's purely my personal preference, and I know that I'm in the minority in that stance. But that's
Right.
not to say that I'm against it. It's just that it needs to be for the right kind of project.
Well, where
And
you don't do it, you more than make up for it in environmental immersion, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's for me. That's more important, and like having something that is having a seamless project. So it would be a waste to have an immaculately designed interior, and then just have a very incongruous transition to the exterior. It's got to be seamless, and it's got to be immersive in that way. And certainly there are guys who are doing it at the moment who just make it look spectacular.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that was the first time I think I've really seen you do glass prominently. So
Sure.
definitely love the look of that. The way you did that was really nicely
Thanks.
done. So where I am now is I'm on the ramp, looking to the south at the Tyrolean logo,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
I guess we'll just head over to the main terminal now to the right.
Yeah, great. Yep, let's do that and just see some of the details. So maybe pop up to the base of one of the giant light towers, and we can just have, because this was my where I was a little bit gratuitous in how much detail I put into it, but I had a bit of fun creating these bases of these towers with with the
Light towers or
bins, the black towers. Yes.
Yeah, those are neat.
Yeah, there's a
Thanks.
trash can there that's connected to it, the little buttons and fire extinguisher logo.
Got the
Mhm.
power boxes and
The bolts on the ground and things like that.
At what point, I have to ask you, at what point did you, at any point did you decide, okay, I'm going into feature creep at this point? Or, I mean, at what point did you decide how much detail you were going to put into this? Was it just kind of as you went along? At any point, oh, I'm going to get hit by this truck. At any point, oh, there's another one. Was there any
Me.
point that you realize, okay, I'm feature creeping now, or is this really the outlook that you had for this project?
This is the outlook I had, probably minus 5%. So I at the start, just specifically to avoid feature creep, I do a very sort of detailed plan of what I am hoping to achieve with the scenery, both within the airport and outside the airport. There'll be things that'll crop up along the way that I'll think are a bit of fun that I might add, but I try as much as possible to stick to that master plan. And also, I am not precious about cutting things when I'm running a little bit behind my own personal deadline. So certainly there are features that if time was no limit and, I had nothing else to do, then I would certainly have added. But, there's a couple of those things which I'm more than happy to cut off just for the sake of, getting a product out in a reasonable time frame.
And yeah, I'm looking at like the new GSE and these like little carts here with like cones and wheel chocks and stuff in it.
Hmm.
So I mean, I guess in these particular areas, was it helpful for the guys that were able to get you the on-site photography of these little areas? I mean, is that really what kind of led up to all of this, or were you sort of aware of these little things like this, like the base of the light towers or the Innsbruck, like little what would you call these? Like these little equipment bins here?
The little the equipment trolleys for each of the
Yeah.
parking allotments. Yeah, certainly I was aware of them, and I had marked out or requested if the guys could take photos of them for me. But being able to do them 100% accurately came down to the fact that I had really good source photos to work with, because there's a lot of times in scenery development where you're going to have blank spots in your source material, and you're just going to have to sort of guesstimate, or you have something that's not high enough resolution to work with, so you're going to have to guess or just fill the spots with what you think it should be. But because I had such good quality source material, I was actually able to do things down to the last detail and know that they were basically correct. Yeah, so things like those fire trucks that you've just been past, I think, like things like that are all I'm able to do in that nice high detail because I had really good quality source photos from. And also, it was sort of an aim of mine at the start of the project, because I knew I was going to basically have to create 80% of the GSE from scratch. Because with my US project, my sort of method has been to gradually, with each project, just do one or two new components and add it to my own sort of collection of bits and pieces that I choose from. But because some of that stuff is getting a little bit older now, like it's a little bit lower poly, because we were designing for lower performance machines back in 2012, 2013. And whereas now, like where we're getting into, particularly prepared version 3, performance is becoming less and less of an issue in terms of little details like this. So therefore, creating basically a whole fleet of GSE from scratch meant that I could really have a consistent quality and a consistent detail level that was just that next level higher than what I have done for previous projects as well. So like you're pointing out the cart, that's a good example of, I probably wouldn't have worried about putting that much detail in previously, but I can now, and it also I'm sort of future-proofing myself a little bit with these models, because I know that they're going to be used for however many projects into the future. So the better detail I can make them, the better they'll look in a couple of years' time if I'm still using them.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, the new GSE here is a really big deal. I mean, you're known for putting a lot of detail in your work, but this is probably the most detail I think I've ever seen you do in one project. I mean, and like you said, this is definitely the largest you've ever done. So, I mean,
Thanks, man.
you're still, and that's the thing too. Like, I'll talk to other developers that'll mention you, and they're like, "God, Jarrad is just so freaking amazing," and blah 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 blah. And developers try to catch up to meet your level, and then it's like each time you step it up again, and it's like certain developers feel like they're still getting left behind. But it's just unbelievable. Like, you have developers that are just really good at what they do, and it makes you think, well, what could they do any better? And it's like you still push yourself each time. So it's not like you found a comfort zone and you stick with it. I mean, you continuously continue to push yourself and do new things and new innovations and stuff like that. And I mean, it's very clear and apparent here.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Just before I give a proper answer, I might just say, if you properly refresh the scenery and not use the time preview, it'll load in all the proper
More
night
light?
lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll bump in all the stuff that's controlled by object flow. All the night splash effects will kick in, and the runway, the lights and stuff will work properly. But sorry, yes, going back to what you were saying, I feel exactly the same way about a bunch of other developers, where I'm continually, just getting ideas and getting inspiration, and trying to keep up with what other guys are doing. So for me, that's where I'm at. Like, I see stuff during projects. And it's quite often I'll see it for while I'm working on one project and it's too late to implement those features without starting from scratch again. But yeah, certainly there's a lot of inspiration that I've drawn from a lot of key guys, like key developers that I really look up to, and try and draw a lot of inspiration from. But also it's there's an element of sinners just expect more these days, which is it's hard because you're still trying to make projects within basically the same time frame, adding a huge amount of more features or more detail, and that's a bit of a hard balancing act between balancing expectations and doing something that you can do in a realistic time frame while still being able to do something that's going to impress people that have been buying your products for years. But it's just good to be making sure that I'm always improving rather than just doing the same old thing, because also I think that would get probably a little bit stale, at least from how I work. I would probably get a bit stuck in a rut, a little bit bored if I was just continually making the same quality stuff and just had a very basic workflow and sort of a basic style of just creating the same stuff over and over.
Right.
For me, part of that challenge and part of the enjoyment is trying to figure out better ways of doing things. And particularly the last couple of projects, Innsbruck is definitely, I feel, is a little bit of a step up more on the visual side of things. But my last couple of projects, I've really been hankering down and working on the behind the scenes things. So just working out ways to be more efficient, and to get more out of the same set of parameters, trying to get better performance out of them, trying to get a bit more work done within the same amount of time frame. So that's really where I've been trying to improve those. So particularly for Eagle County and Telluride, and then I was able to implement them at a base level with Innsbruck, and then able to focus my improvements a little bit more on the visual side of things.
Right. Well, I read out of memory.
Oh, excellent.
So
Good.
I'm just reloading here, so it'll be just a moment. What I don't know, I'm actually surprised that I never actually took a look at the performance monitor, but it
Here's the
could,
thing:
yeah.
if you're switching around menus and times and stuff like that, that just will kill you every time.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was a combination of that. It was a combination of changing user aircraft as well
Right, right.
with some of the other users in Join FS. So that I think
and
that hit it too.
The big
definitely
no-no.
during testing we
We're
noticed that
flying
using
around now in the 747 from PMDG with absolutely no issues at all.
Oh, really? What were you saying,
excellent.
Jarrad?
I was going to say that we found during testing that skipping the time previews, because exactly the same reason that you use it, it's an easy way to test different components at different times of day. But we were finding that we were having the same thing, that skipping the time back and forth and left and right and center was the only way that we could really get it to OOM. We were trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it to try and work out where the OOM levels were. And that was really the only thing that we could work out how to get it. Even throwing the really high-end performance-heavy aircraft at it, and mixing the weather up and bumping everything out. It was really, that was the only thing that we could consistently get it to crash.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do now, I guess now is a good time to load up winter, I guess, since I'm restarting the
Yeah,
simulator. And then we'll pull up the night textures again the right way. And yeah, that's a good thing to know too. I didn't know that it had that much of an effect on that as well. So that's actually good to know. The only time I ever really play with that is like during a live stream or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely good to know. And then while we're here, I was just kind of scrolling through to see if there was many questions, and really a lot of what I'm finding in the chat here is the feedback is just really overwhelming, I think, just with everything that everyone is saying here. So a lot of
Yeah,
positive responses.
Yeah,
I like
everyone's
the,
overwhelmed or speechless.
Exactly.
I like the Grand Theft Auto comment.
Oh, the avatar, yeah. Let me see if I can find just a little bit more daylight here. Oh, I like to try to find it like right before dusk, just as the lights turn on. I think maybe, let's see if this works. And I'm already seeing some of the snow there. And just looking in the TeamSpeak, I see Xbox is in there, but he doesn't have his microphone on. He's probably watching the stream. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's not quite. No, I have to go a little bit darker just to get the night lights on here. See, that's the other thing that I don't like about Prepared, is I don't like how they manage the night lighting. I don't know if you guys notice, because I feel like the way that it manages night lighting is the night lighting comes on too late at night. I don't know if it's just me
Yeah.
that finds that.
Mhm.
But
Hate
Jared,
that
have you
too.
guys ever thought about, I don't know if you guys have brought that to their attention or not, about how the night lighting can work. Like, if it could be user controllable, that would be great if it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But if you're in a place like this where you have high mountains and the sun sets early because it disappears behind the terrain, you lose
Mhm.
that light. But if we were on the beach, we'd probably maybe have enough daylight. I don't know, but
I think Holger said it was hard coded into the engine and they can't do anything about it. But
Yeah, it is for all the automated elements. So things like the auto gem lighting and like default runway lighting and things like that. It is hard coded into the engine purely because like the time of day that the sun is going to rise and set in any specific location is going to change by increments of seconds each day of the year. But we do have the ability to override that with Orbx's object flow engine.
Right.
But then again, like if you set it for a certain time of day, then that's only going to be useful for 1 month of the year where that's going to be practical. But then, 3 months down the track during the middle of winter, then those lights are going to come on too late, so to speak. So yeah, it is something, but it isn't something that it's a good idea. It's something I hadn't personally thought much about, but it does make sense. And it is something I agree that I noticed that it does get a little bit too dark too early before the lights kick in.
yeah. Well, yeah, I see that's a huge difference with the lighting now. That is huge. So you probably haven't caught up just yet, but
Yeah, I'm seeing it here. Yep.
yeah, this is really good. Let me see. I want to get rid of some of these clouds up here because they're kind of blocking the mountains in the background. I'm just going to take the clouds away altogether. That's better. Yeah, I mean, you've totally nailed it. Let me see, the ground is looking a bit white just because of the light, but there's no snow textures on the ground, correct?
No, it's just the ground poly is slightly influenced by the seasonal components, just enough that it's not like I haven't got um, snowdrift. Because surprisingly, and this was something that I learned, that the amount of year that there's snow on the ground at Innsbruck is surprisingly short. Like it's usually after Christmas that you see the snow, and it's usually not around for very long at all. Maybe a couple of weeks to a month in a heavy year, and certainly this year they've had not much at all. Whereas I just presumed that it would be under snow for 3 months plus of the year.
Oh, I'm surprised to
Um,
hear that because yeah, you're right. There's no snow on the ground. I haven't picked the right time.
Yeah, even things like when I was making the fall or the autumn seasonal variations to the ground textures for the entire photo reel. Normally it's a given that anywhere with the mountains with that elevation difference, that during fall you would start seeing snow on the tops of the mountain caps. But then when I was looking through, I was just searching images and historical images as well. It it's so rare to see that. And then I asked a bunch of local guys, and they were saying it's the same thing. That usually, you don't the leaves changing color and snow on the tops of the mountains very rarely correlate. So that's why with my fall variation textures, which are in this version are in September and October, you don't see any snow caps on the mountains, whereas you probably would for a lot of locations, say in the Rocky Mountains or something like that. And sorry, long-winded, going back to what you were saying about the ground poly, that's why there's not a huge amount of snow on the runway itself. And also the fact that, it's a relatively small airport that's so busy that any time there is snow, they're pretty quick to clean it up pronto. So yeah, I've kept it purely to the edges, and you just got that edge embankment of the snow instead.
So what would be the proper time to select in order to get the full kind of winter look?
If you loaded mid-January, mid-February, partly because of the surrounding seasons outside the coverage area, you don't want to have sort of snow outside and then it not inside, because it just makes for an ugly transition. So I've tried to balance between what the default is and what is real. So January and February, any time will be snow on the ground.
I like how you did your light beams off the lights and stuff. That's really subtle but perfect. And then how it,
Oh, thank you. It's a similar technique to what is how I create the soft shadows. So it's kind of like, if you imagine a TV set or a film set where you're setting up a massive lighting rig with, different lights. It's the same thing within Studio Max. So I set up a rigging of sort of 400 or 500 different light sources, and then just bake it into the textures, and then go back and hand edit stuff to, tweak it a little bit and make sure it looks realistic.
Yeah, it blends out real nice, and then you get a nice bright on the tarmac or whatever.
Thanks.
On the ground.
Thanks very much.
There we go. So now we've got the real winter textures here. In fact, let me see if I play with this, is it going to work or not? I know we don't want to use this, but yeah, okay, so that will. So now I just want to get to a higher kind of a noon time, just so that we can kind of see the full snow textures. Oh, wow, that looks amazing. Look at that. Oh my goodness. This is one of those moments where I'm like, is this my new thing? Now, on the roofs of the autogen houses, those are the only areas where we're not going to see snow or like white roofs. That we're looking at that accurately, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Again, it's the performance penalty for doing that is far too great for the marginal impact, and so the performance impact across the entire year to have snow on the roof
Just for like a few weeks, yeah.
It's really not worth it for a scenery of this scope. So that's purely why I haven't done it, and why I don't normally do it. I think I did it at a couple of the really heavily snowy airports. So Jackson Hole and Phelps Field in Spokane, and maybe Bozeman. I did the snow roofs, but for a dense area like this, it's not viable to do it without losing 20% of your frame rates for the entire year.
Right, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. So I'm wondering, is there anything else that we should show? I'm gonna just go back to the night lighting one more time. I'm gonna see if I can manipulate this. We'll see if it comes up right, or if I should.
Are we showing on the airport tonight, or are we going to go other parts?
Oh no, you came in late. We've been at this
I'm
now
sorry.
for, oh wow, yeah. How long have we been at this now? We've been at this for over 2.5 hours. Oh my God. And I told Jarrad I wasn't going to keep him for more than an hour, and we really did go over.
No, it's all good.
I was going to say, I like the all the raised highways and stuff, and all the overpasses and things.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And that's actually one of the parts that I didn't mention too, was all of the raised highways. I mean, we looked at the bridges, but the roads really do make this scenery. The roads that run along the hillsides and stuff. Yeah, a huge.
It gives the scenery just a 3D. It just jumps out at
Makes
you.
it pops out. It makes it pop out. Yeah.
Are there any ski jumpers on the ski jump?
No, I did think about it, but no, it was just, again, it was in that 5% of features that I culled to get it done.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Those the flashing lights for the runway to line up. Is that way in real life through the city?
Yes, the
Wow.
rabbit is quite famous. It's not used all the time, only during particularly bad weather, and it's not slaved to the primary runway lighting, so it can be disabled or enabled on its own. But yes, it's the situational awareness when it's low resolution. There is a video on YouTube of a 757 cockpit landing during bad weather during the day where it's on. It was the only video I could find during daylight where it was switched on. So yeah, if you want to see what it looks like
User
in real life,
disconnected from your channel.
it's pretty cool.
All right.
And one last thing I guess I'll do here. Someone did point out, Matthew A320 in the chat pointed out that the static
User
airliner
joined your
models
channel.
that are not activated here in the stream are actually really amazing. And the reason why I actually took those out as well was because I wanted to have my AI traffic come in, and then I never turned on my AI traffic. So I thought I'd turn that on really quickly. But yeah, that's the only other thing that we're not seeing here is that for those who want to try to keep performance as high as possible by not using AI traffic, hopefully it doesn't kill things for me. But you do have those nice static models that Orbx places in there as well.
Tried Ultimate Traffic Live, but it seems there's not that much traffic coming into this airport.
Yeah, we've noticed when we tested a few of the well-known commercial packages that it's not, there isn't a huge amount of traffic that flies in. So I think it's more up to people. I haven't tested with, the old favorite freeware packages, but I think it might be an element of people making their own AI aircraft if they're so inclined. But I should also point out the really amazing work that Graham Eccleston did on the APX, and it's the thing that's the black art to me still is creating APXs that can do things, because there's so many limitations to the AI engine in FSX. And so it's just sort of breaking the rules and working out ways to break the rules to get the results that you want for these unusual airports, unusual terrain and procedures and stuff. What Graham was able to do is he created an APX file that was able to allow AI aircraft to fly unusual approaches, so that they're not going to slam into the terrain.
The mountains,
Unfortunately,
right.
it's impossible to do it for departures. So it's the luck of the draw as to whether some aircraft hit into the mountains or not. But certainly, for all the arrivals, they are going to fly that nice, interesting curved valley approach into the airport. I should just also point out, it's something that I see a little bit of comment from, and Dondre, you reminded me about it, and I should probably just point this out, is two things, is that, first of all, the static aircraft do not impact the APX whatsoever. So, the AI parking, we've tried to make sure that there is plenty of AI parking spots, even with all these statics enabled for most AI packages. So we've done some testing, and if you've got your most popular AI add-ons, it's very rare. In fact, we found it almost impossible to find a time where there would be more AI airliners on the apron than there are available parking spots, even with all the static aircraft enabled. And the second point is, I know that, because I was actually thinking I might do a little bit of a poll survey on the Orbx forums to get everyone's opinions about this, as to why people choose to, for those of you who do choose to disable static aircraft, what is your reason for doing it? And, I know that a lot of virtual guys that fly online prefer to have the empty apron for when they're flying multiplayer. I think that the AI guys who like to tweak the APXs themselves sometimes like to disable them. But I think that sometimes there is a perception that that the static aircraft take a bit of a performance hit, and that they're an easy way to get some more performance out of your airport. But I should probably point out that that's actually not the case, and that as a single component, even disabling all the aircraft will have a relatively small performance impact compared to, say, dialing down your autogen 1 or 2 notches, or like even turning down your water settings 2 notches, or switching off your shadows even 1 or 2 settings. It's simply because part of the reason why we include static aircraft is because we can create a busy apron at a much better performance impact than what you would have with the same amount of AI aircraft. Just because we're able to utilize, because they're static objects, we're able to utilize certain performance improving techniques. And the second of all is because, we're able to add all the clutter integrated into the static. So, things like the APUs plugged in and the baggage handlers are chucking the bags out of the back of the plane and things
User
like
joined
that.
your channel.
So, again, it's purely up to users how they prefer to do it. And I know that a lot of guys prefer visually just not to have a cluttered apron. But as I should just probably point out that perhaps some impressions of performance aren't necessarily the case.
Yeah, and yeah, for me it's not, because you mentioned doing a like a poll, and the only reason why I do it is literally for the two reasons you mentioned, because there's a concern that it will take up positions from AI traffic. Only if it's a smaller airport. The bigger the airport it is, the better to have static aircraft, because you want to try to keep as many AI out as possible. But then the other reason as well is either is that, or right, if you're doing a group flight, or if you're on VATSIM or something like that, and you might see someone's user aircraft use a gate that's now humping a static or something like that. So that's the only reason why I do it. I did turn my AI up to 100%, and as far as I can see, only 2 aircraft showed up for both the IFR and VFR or whatever they call it. There's one jet there, a little Cessna, and this one Austrian Q400. So those are the only 2 aircraft that actually showed up for this time of day. So yeah, you're right. I think, like you said, if in a place like this, if you're finding that the statics actually, there's so few AI that fly in here that there's still enough space for the AI to fly in, then yeah, I think it's a best bet to just put the statics back in, especially yours, because you do put a lot of work into your static aircraft, painting them and so on and so forth, and they do look really good, especially like with Eagle County. That's one of the airports where I kept all of yours in, and I think Monterey as well, because it just all fits together so well. So I'm not sure why I did it differently here. That's actually a good point. I should put them back.
And the other thing as well, two things as well, sorry, was that in the case of this airport, I have done it in the past, but I decided not to do it for Innsbruck, is that even if you disable the static aircraft, say the airliner aircraft, it doesn't, by default, it doesn't open up those spots to parking. There are already quite a few different variations that we have to factor in, in terms of the control panel, and then adding duplicate versions of the APXs for each of the sim versions creates another level of possibility for something to go wrong. So, if you disable, as you have, if you've disabled your parking spot, if you've disabled those the static aircraft, it doesn't mean that those spots are open to airline traffic. But even so, there are more than enough parking spots for traffic in your AI packages, even with the static. Like we tried to get the right balance between the two. And I think probably one of the reasons why a lot of the AI packages don't include a lot of traffic, first of all, is because the busiest time of year for Innsbruck, which is contrary to most airports, is that it's winter. So, particularly if you're downloading custom flight plans, quite often it's, the summer flight plans, because that's when it's normally the busiest for most parts of a country. Whereas the opposite is 100% the case. Like middle of winter, middle of ski season is absolutely peak season, and comparatively, the airline component of the airport is is a lot quieter during the summer months. And then secondly, as well, is that a lot of the traffic that comes in is a charter flight, so they won't be to a weekly or a daily schedule. So therefore, they probably are skipped from most FSX flight plan
charters
for AI. Yeah, the charters. Yeah,
right.
So that's because we drew the same conclusions as you. We're finding it quite hard to find a time when there was a lot of busy airlines on the apron with your stock AI packages, and that was what I deduced were the reasons.
That makes perfect sense. Is there anything else, Jarrad, that we should take a look at before we go, or anything you'd like people to know? Or I know we've taken almost 3 hours of your time, so.
No, no, that's absolutely fine. I don't think so. There's a lot that we didn't look at, but as always, I like that because gives people a chance to go and explore in their own time, and
Right.
I always find it fun with other sceneries to kind of like explore stuff and come across something that I wasn't aware of on my own. I think that's always really fun for me. So I hope that there's still plenty of that kind of stuff for people who have watched this entire stream to still go and explore and discover on their own. But yeah, otherwise, no, mate,
What-
you've covered it amazingly. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'll just top off on that really quickly. Right, when we were flying around, I was noticing a lot of churches and bell towers and little landmarks and stuff. And I figured if Jarrad doesn't point it out, then I won't point it out. So we'll, a lot of people will be able to see a lot of stuff flying over in the stream that maybe we didn't verbally point out. But yeah, it's good for people to kind of take their own adventures and know that there's still a lot more to see than what was covered here as well. So I think that's the fun element also.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot
Yeah,
of
for
art
sure.
objects around town.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. Yeah, that was neat.
Absolutely. So I think that's about it. Yeah, I didn't see any other questions. I think we acknowledged all the questions that were in the chat there, as far as I can see. And a quick shout out to Zoolander for monitoring the TeamSpeak for us and getting everyone in here who wanted to come in and fly, and for everyone that joined us this morning flying around and touring the scenery. So it shows that a lot of people have bought the scenery already. Looks like everyone's happy. I did see one comment there that someone mentioned that they have their tires sinking in the tarmac or something like that.
Yeah, right. I'll whoever that is, if they, I think just the easiest thing as always is just to pop over to the Orbx forum and set up start a support topic, and then I can properly have a look into it and help them if need be.
It sounds good. Well, Jarrad, it's like going on 4 o'clock in the morning, so I'm gonna let you go now. But wonderful job. I mean, this is an amazing airport. This was the Innsbruck that I've been truly waiting many years to get. The first version in FS9 was really incredible for its day. But this is kind of a testament to how far we've gone in the last 10 or 11 years or so, and how much more immersed flight simulation has become. And I think a scenery like this, thinking about having a scenery like this when FSX first came out, would probably have been impossible for a number of reasons, performance and memory and so on and so forth. And just looking at how far you all have come as developers in terms of getting very, what's the word that I'm looking for? Savvy in terms of how to push the simulation as far as possible and getting as much from it while drawing as little from it. Because I think there are much smaller sceneries from 10 years ago that are pulling way more than this huge. How many square miles this thing was? I mean, it's
2,500.
2,500 square miles. I mean, so.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what miles are. Kilometers.
Square kilometers. Yeah, even more so. So yeah, I mean, that just goes to show. And we're all looking at the 64-bit version of Prepared, which is due within probably the next 3 to 4 months, something like that, if not sooner. So it's going to be interesting to see how you guys start pushing the envelope further, should you choose to do so, now that you have a lot more resources that probably will be allocated at some point as well. So. But you've done another excellent job. Of course, you already know that. You've put all your blood, sweat, and tears in it. And what can I say? I'm going to be spending a lot of time up here. And, I always enjoy our chats. I look forward to seeing you again in a couple of months and having a beer. It's going to be a lot of fun. And
Great time.
We're looking forward to that next European airport.
Yes, whatever it may be. And I should just also, before we sign off, just give again a massive thank you to everyone who has sort of partook in any way during the development of this, and everyone who has contributed to the conversations in the discussion forums and on your website and on our website and on Facebook. It's really rewarding from my point of view. Like, I can't overstate how rewarding it is to see how many people are interested, whether it's positively or negatively. Like, it's really great to see that much interaction and conversation going on, and I really genuinely appreciate it. So thank you to everyone, and you know, like it's terrific. And for those of you who are deciding to buy it, I really do hope that you know you get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. So for everyone watching, thank you for joining us on your Sunday afternoon or evening or Monday morning, depending on where you are. Go to Orbx at orbxdirect.com, I think is the new URL, and grab a
That's
copy
the
of
one.
Innsbruck and support your development community. It's been a lot of fun hanging out today, and hey, we'll see you guys all back here for the next live stream. Jarrad, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Right.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, we can buy 2 copies.